Hello and welcome to the regular Friday edition of Spurs Diehards TTID, Tottenham Till I Die. Hope you're all well out there, and I hope you're going to stay with us and enjoy what should be an enjoyable show. We're going to start by talking post-match Man City. We will do a preview of Alkmaar a bit early, but as most players returning to fitness, I don't think that'd be too much of a problem. And we might even talk a little bit about rumours with transfers. I know there's 12 games to go, but already we're being linked with every man and his dog as per usual. So without further ado, because I don't like doing long-winded intros, I'll introduce our guest below. Chang, how are you?
Very, very well, Mrs. Rooker. I'm hoping everyone's having a fantastic Friday over there in the UK and in Europe and in America as well. And to anyone watching over here in Asia or the Asia Pacific, a very, very good Saturday morning to each and every single one of you. This is one of those weekends where Spurs can't ruin your weekend, so might as well enjoy it and soak it up as we prepare for a momentous away occasion against Alkmaar next Thursday.
Oh, and what I've got to do, because I owe you an apology, I made a mistake. When Jose wanted to be made a mod the other day, so sort of half link our channels together, when I went there to do it, I deleted all the mods. And when I tried to find your name, there's more than one person called Chang out there, it's your Chang. And I need your Earl so as I can add you back. I'll give you a mod back. I don't want you to think, you've fallen out with us or anything.
Okay, sure, no problem.
Back to my regular co-host here, Drew. How are you, mate? In America?
Not doing too bad, thank you very much, Chang. Pleasure to meet you and share the screen.
Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Ruler.
And I bet it's one more you two than I, because it's 2 degrees here. So
yeah, it's actually a really abnormally nice day here. It's about 70 degrees, or I guess probably I don't know somewhere in the region about. Yeah, very nice, very nice. So all the snow's finally left the ground. Yeah, looking forward to speaking Spurs. Big up to everybody in the chat. Good evening to Blaine. Good evening to Spurs GCTV. Hope you're well. SDFC Benny, big up. Mapping, nice one. Good to see everybody.
Do you want to do the chat, Drew?
Yeah, I'll say. Well, we'll say a quick load to the Spurs Super Spurs TV, which is Blaine. Everybody get over there and smash subscribe to him. We are looking forward to having him on the show at some point. Just say Spurs GCTV, good evening. There's me saying good evening. And SDFC Benny, cheers. And Mappin, big up Adrian. Big up yourself, Mappin.
Mappin, if you want to come on, let us know. I mean, you're from. He's in Nepal, Chang. I don't know how far Nepal is from you, but if you want to come in, Mappin, just say yes in the chat, and I'll send you the link. Because as it's late, the UK guests are they're all down the pub probably.
They're all taking their beautiful other halves out for dinner. Is what it is. They're all whining and dining their wonderful wives.
Right. Okay. Oh, he says sure. Okay. Well, I'm just going to send you the link, Mapping.
While we're doing that, Chang, what was your initial thoughts on the game against City on Wednesday?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I honestly felt that we could have avoided defeat. If anything, and the chances that we had in abundance to equalize, maybe even take the lead late on in the game, certainly felt that it was maybe a bit of an injustice or even a disservice to the players who really put in an effort in front of the home faithful. And of course, winning 4 on a trot, if you had told me at the beginning of January, from the back end of 2024, given our current league form and even our form in general in all competitions, that we will be able to win 4 league games on the trot against the likes of United, City, Ipswich, and also Brentford, I'd be laughing knowing that we just didn't have it in us. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, we just have to take the result as it is, and I think it all balances up in the end. Given the way we've been enjoying the rub of the green against the Manchester clubs. And I still feel that we could have avoided defeat, but that's the way the game shapes up. And I'm pretty sure, I really do hope that much like the back-to-back exits from the domestic cups at the hands of Liverpool and Villa, I really do hope Big Ant and the players themselves learn from this and use this as a sort of a springboard, or try to garner momentum from this one defeat and go on a run in both the Europa League and the league proper itself. Having said that, back to you, Mr. Drew.
Adrian, do you want to introduce Mappin into the show?
Yeah, Mappin, say hello to Chang. I don't know if you met Chang and Drew before.
Oh, hello, Chang. How are you? Hope you're doing well. I think you're from Korea, right?
I'm here in Malaysia, Southeast Asia, but we are roughly around that zone, that continent.
Oh, you're originally from Korea, right? But right now you're in Malaysia.
I am actually of Chinese descent, but I am born and bred as a Malaysian Chinese. So, but it's a very good guess. It's a very well educated guess.
Yeah, I've been to Korea a few times, Yeah.
Well, I'm half Albanian, half English, so we've got a right continental flavour. Drew, what are you? While we're on the subject of half Cherokee Indian or something.
No, to be honest, I think I'm pretty straight. I think I probably just a bit some English, Irish, and Scottish. I mean, I think it's probably very, very boring. Nothing as quite as exotic or entertaining as you guys. Good to meet you. Good to meet you, Mappin.
Yeah, are you 100% Nepalese, Mappin? Are you 100% Nepalese?
Yeah, man, I'm 100% Nepalese. Nepalese veins run through my blood.
You're probably the only pure blood here, mate. Right, we'll get on. Post-match Man City. I'll start with you, Chang, and then I'll come to you, Matthew.
Yes, sir.
When you first see the team, I assume you watched the game, or even if not, you watched it on playback or some sort. Was you happy with the lineup when you saw it? Which is
from my initial reaction to the lineup was what a mismatch that right wing back of ours is going to be when you deploy Porro against Jeremy Doku, and my worst fears were proven right within the first quarter of an hour. Inside 20 minutes, when I think they should have at least scored either 2 or 3, and we were very, very fortunate that it was just the one Erling Haaland tap in that came from that right wing, which just bodes. It just doesn't bode well really for Porro and his long-term future for us at right back, especially if we are looking to build on our defense. But I mean, there is the equation, or rather there is the small matter of squad rotations and keeping our players fresh for the trip away to Alkmaar. So probably this was the best, or rather the lesser of two evils, put it this way, having to choose between, say, a home defeat by a single solitary goal to City and sacrificing Spence for him to be fit and fully ready for the trip away to the Netherlands. And I think that was the only worry for me. Other than that, I think I was pretty don't get me wrong, I still feel that Kulusevski is by far the best, or rather the most outstanding player of ours this season. And you could tell immediately that what a big miss he was in that first half. I think the only good chance we had on goal was a Kevin Danso flicked on header led on in the first half that came to nothing. But other than that, I mean, there was absolutely no spark of creativity. The crosses just won't find their marks. As washed as some people would say Son is, I mean, you could see immediately the moment he wasn't starting, those crosses, those assists didn't come. And the Son that provided the 2 assists for Johnson the previous weekend against Ipswich, that was severely missing. And I think this should actually give a lot of food for thought for us Spurs fans on whom should or shouldn't be starting. But I mean, onwards and upwards, the the players themselves, especially those who started the game. They have to take a good hard look at themselves and see where they got that wrong, especially in the first half. That was it wasn't the worst performance at home, but things could have been a lot better. Given the way we absolutely bossed Ipswich last Sunday, but last Saturday, sorry. But I think there is still room for improvement, even for Gray and Danso. I thought they did okay for the most part in both halves, but there was still some cracks that needed patching up in defense, and I'm sure the coaching staff and Big Ange himself will look into that before we travel away to Alkmaar. And I really do hope, really do hope for Tell's sake that he gets his European account, rather his goal scoring boots on, because the longer he goes on without a goal, I know he's only 19 and he's just only joined us from the Bundesliga, but pundits and journals, knowing them, they will find any little excuse to sort of belittle us. So I think it would. I really do hope that things.
Well, he got an FA Cup goal, didn't he? That was a sweet
yes,
goal.
He did.
He scored against Villa from a good left-footed cross from Decky, didn't he? I mean, we'll talk about what we normally do is we discuss the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then we discuss. I don't do a players rating numbers, nothing like that. But we go through and then discuss the players, individual performances, how we felt they fared, and whatever. I think the stats will surprise you all when I bring them up last after we've discussed the game. But Mappin, what was your thoughts when you see the lineup?
Yeah, the lineup. I was a bit surprised not saying Jet Spence, but I can also get why he rested Spence, as he said. He wanted to use the whole squad, but overall, I think the squad was a bit surprising. Again, he added Warder, throwing out Mikey Moore. I think that was a bit disheartening as well. I didn't think like Warner deserves to be in the squad. And apart from that, the overall game, I think it was a weird one. Actually, we were good in some patches and we were bad as well. But overall, I think we created some chances and City had chances as well. We could have won and we could have lost as well. So deservedly, I think we could at least be deserved to get a draw out of it. But it was sad that we lost. Yeah, I think that's by taking it.
Drew, what was your take on the lineup?
You're muted.
I was really surprised, to be honest with you, that he went with Johnson, Tell, and Odegaard up front. I understand that Johnson and Odegaard need games in their legs, and Tell needs to get used to the Premier League. But that does seem to me like an extremely young and inexperienced front line, especially even just playing with themselves, right? They barely had games. I mean, Odegaard, 1.5 games back? Johnson, first game back from injury. So it might even be the first time they've all sort of played together for a significant amount of time. So that was just interesting to me. I kind of expected, even though he's absolutely dead on his feet and he's already played essentially like a Premier League season, I still expected Kulusevski either to be in the 10 or probably playing on the right instead of Johnson. And also, I know that you've got to start rotating players. And I know one of the things that he said is, if he doesn't rotate players now, then he's a hypocrite for having wanted to while we were injured. So I kind of get all that. But for me, just because he hasn't played as nearly as many minutes as everybody else, I just think you have to play Spence. I think you should have played Spence from the start. And I don't know. I think that you should have gone a little bit different. I think you could have. It was there for the taking, in my opinion, based on the stats as well. I think you could have gone the other way round. You could have gone for a try and get a healthy, not a healthy lead, but I think you probably could have gone in a couple of goals up had you played Spence, Sonny, and Kulusevski, and you could have rotated them out in the second half. So that I'm a little bit baffled by. But having said that, we could have had a complete reversal of this. We could have gone in looking really, really good with a 1-0 lead. They could have come out in the second half, and they could have equalised, or we could have gone in not having the lead and they still could have come out and equalised. So, fine margins and all that. I think, as I say, you're going to go into the stats later. The stats suggest that it was a very, very fine game. And if anything, we almost edged it in a couple of areas. So I can't be too mad. Am I upset that we've dropped 3 points? Obviously, especially given this season, because I was harping on last week about really wanting to make a push on both fronts because we were starting to get players back and we could do it. So disappointed, very disappointed, but I'm still seeing the green shoots of whatever this team's going to end up ultimately growing into.
Yeah, when I see the lineup, I mean, I was at the ground because I'm a season ticket holder, so I'm there for every home game. And I looked at it and I picked actually Dogger and Porro. I said to the guys I know there, I said, look, you're going to give Spence a rest. I said, we'll see how it goes. He's been amazing, Spence, though. He saved us 50, 60 million quid. Alan's here. You, Alan, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, we only just started. We haven't started that long. We're just talking about the lineup. So you can come on next, give us your opinion of the lineup.
Sure.
Yeah, I actually predicted it. It wasn't a surprise to me. And I've also more on enough podcasts, I've expressed my concerns about Porro's defensive incapabilities, basically. So as much as he is a technically superb player, so that wasn't a surprise. Happy with Danso. He's been immense since he's come in. It's still a small sample. You know, we don't want to do a Dragerson, start well, look bright, and then go backwards. I don't think he will because he's 26 and he's got experience behind him. You know, and then really the forward line, I wanted to see more of Tell and I wanted to see Odegaard. I know what Johnson can do and can't do, right? So that wasn't an issue for me. Alan, what was your take when you saw the lineup? And good evening. Well, good morning.
Good evening. Yes. I was a little surprised. I thought that if you're going to bring Porro back, bring him back maybe in the second half and reward like Jed Spence for doing such a good job by having him start. Same with Wilson Odegaard. I was a little surprised that Odegaard was starting. I could see him coming in the second half after Sonny maybe scores a goal. But I didn't anticipate that Odegaard was going to start. It seemed like too many young players all at once against a team that wasn't a championship side, unless they get relegated with the 115 Chargers. But we were playing Man City. You know, this wasn't just a slouch team. Even a diminished Man City is a difficult game. So I just thought that he was playing a little fast and loose with the lineup a little bit.
Okay, right. We'll move on to the substitutes, and I'll come back to Chang. Bench looking stronger now, if you like the players that are on it. That is, of course.
Yeah, so that bench looks pretty solid, and I mean, apart from maybe Dane Scarlett, pretty much all of those are possible first teamers, maybe with the exception of Werner, whom for multiple reasons I'm not going to have to go into. I think it is all but confirmed. I think that he will not be made permanent by the end of the season. So I mean, it's good for a change to have consecutive games whereby you actually have seniors to call upon, first team seniors too, no less, from the bench, as opposed to just having under 21s and youth players. But I mean, from a lot of those players on the bench, especially those who came on in the second half, I think they made a good case for themselves to be traveling and starting against Alkmaar, because a lot of their creativity, their output, and even their final product in the final third was sorely missed in both halves against City. And again, I have to reiterate what I said earlier about Son. Anyone who's thinking that he's already washed or over the hill and past it has to really take a look at his end products for us since we started this win in the league. But I mean, again, some of those players that did come on, the likes of your Werners and your I think it was Bissouma who came on. Yeah, they weren't the players that we are hoping that they would be, and it wouldn't surprise me really that Bissouma is another one of those players, much like Werner, who won't be around come next season. But
Yeah.
you never know. There still is the remainder. What is it? A quarter now? The remainder quarter of the league and the Europa League run, in which for them to prove us all wrong. But time is running out for each and every single one of those underperformers. Having said that, back to you, Mr. Stroker.
Mappin, what was your take on the substitutes bench?
Yes, your bench look quite strong looking upon Son, Kulusevski, Bissouma, Shaw, but I think Enz did the right thing not bringing on Bissouma. I think he deserves to be punished, for the amount of games he cost us this season. And I think Kulusevski, he looked a bit lackluster when he came on. He kept on losing the ball. I think one half chance he had in the box, I think due to his touch, the ball went away, and then he kept on chasing it. And I think Spain, he was really bright coming on. He closed down the city's wingers. Like Savinio didn't have any room when he came on. He looked on to take on his players. And what can we talk about Warner? Warner is Warner. And I was surprised that he didn't bring Scarlett on as we needed a goal. I think he could have been a little help, throwing extra bodies in front, having that focal point. I think I would have liked to see Scarlett. Apart from that, no complaints. Yeah, this is what you could do with this bench.
Alan, your take on the substitutes bench?
I was a little surprised to see Werner back.
Yeah.
He's alone. It's not like we own the player. He's just alone. So
Yeah.
I don't understand the loyalty there. It just feels misplaced. And who else? I'm always kind of surprised that Regulon's, again, this is a player who very likely will just, at some point, I imagine, tear up their own contract. He just seems like that kind of, he's that level of unhappy. Other than that, again, I was surprised to see Son on the bench and Spence on the bench. I thought that I didn't understand the logic behind it. We've seen and planned to rest players for a future game only for that to backfire. So I don't see the logic anymore in resting players just for the sake of resting them for, in this case, the Alkmaar game. We tried that once. It didn't work. In fact, it spectacularly backfired on us. So I just don't think that we need to necessarily rest players if we know that they can have an impact early in the game. And unfortunately, it was a tale of two halves.
Drew, what was your thoughts on the bench?
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much I can add other than, everybody's kind of covered everything. Kind of think Son and Kulusevski should have been starting, but it kind of just, as I say, it is what it is. I would have liked. I'm with everybody here. I do not know what we are doing with this Werner experiment because I think that was over a long time ago. And yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. If you're looking for a goal, I've got no idea why you're not just sticking Dane Scarlett on instead, being as you've been kind of waxing a little bit lyrical about him the last, few weeks or the times that he has played, saying he's come on and done a great job. And when he came back to the club, there was no point in sending him back out again because he was probably going to be better here. So, these are the reasons why I understand why people get a little bit frustrated because it's almost, I don't know, it's a little bit contradictory at times from the manager. But, he's got his reasons. So, it's what it is. Again, I just, especially with the Werner thing, I just don't know why we're continuing to do that when, if something happened to, I'm kind of interested to see what's happened to Mikey Moore. Like, why isn't he on there instead, just getting a few minutes? I mean, he'd offer more in 10 minutes than Werner would. So I'm not sure. I don't know if he's, injured, still not quite recovered from that virus, whether he's still got, something residual from that.
I haven't checked on that. I normally assume that because he's been sitting on a bench and only getting subs minutes, they would want to give him game time with the under-21s. I hope
Yeah.
that's the reason why. Anyway,
Mikey Moore also, I think he deactivated his Twitter account as well. I think he also deleted his first goal for Spurs. I think there's a bit concern around him. I don't know what he's up to.
Well, as for Werner, I fully agree with everyone's comments on him. I don't see why he's alone. He's got no future at this football club. I get why Ange wants to bring him on late because of his pace. I mean, he's fast enough when everyone's fresh on the field, your opponent. So at this stage, and he was screaming at him when he put that ball across and cut back again. He's a player who needs to, look, if you've got to be confident on the field and you haven't got self-confidence, you really shouldn't be in our football club. We don't want players like that here. He'll be gone. Reguilon, look, he was only in there as backup for you, Doggy, really. You know, because if Spence was coming on, he was probably going to come on the right-hand side anyway now and see him on there. And the only other, so I wouldn't have wanted, to me, Werner, Reguilon and Basuma, well, he's still got a part to play. He might save his career. I don't see it. I don't see Basuma saving his Spurs career. With all the rumours linking us to midfielders, he's the first one. You're not getting rid of Graham Bentancur. You're not getting rid of Cooley. Madison offers you so much different, doesn't he? You know what I mean? He's really quality type. All right. And you can't expect these players to be world-class players and give you an 8 out of 10 every match because, you know, that's not going to happen in the Premier League because it just takes it out of you. But you know, Werner and Reguilon shouldn't have been on the bench as far as I'm concerned, and Bassoon was lucky to be sitting on it. That's my opinion, right?
Yeah.
We'll move on, right, until the game start, and I'll come to you, Cheng. We actually started this game brightly, actually, even though after this first goal, you know, I mean, 12 minutes, Haaland gets a tap in from a Doku cross. It was all too easy. Right, I'm sitting right on top of that goal because I'm right up on the inside. I'm actually dead in line. I'm dead in line with the goal line, the whole goal line, but I'm right up high on the 5th level, right? And Doku did have a good game for Man City. I don't know how many goals he gets. The only crib of wingers is if you don't score enough goals, I don't want you, right? But yeah, I mean, it was all too easy, this goal, wasn't it?
If you had seen the freeze frame, or if you pause at the moment the ball left Doku's feet before Haaland tapped in the only goal of the game, you would have seen in that side rule or the slide rule pass.
6 players in a line, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And how did the ball travel through so many Spurs legs to end up at the one particular player whom none of us want to see the ball at his feet from that distance, from that far out away from goal, with the whole goal to aim at too, at his own leisure. That was a criminal, to be honest. And I think this is why you cannot actually envision Porro as our long-term right back, because not long after that, Savinho had possibly the single best chance of
I've
either
got that
team.
coming up.
How he did not convert that, I think it's a mystery. I think it's harder to miss. It's actually harder to miss the target than to actually hit the target. If he had got it on target, well, maybe there was a chance of Vicario saving, but I think it was pretty hard to miss from that range. But stranger misses have happened, not only to City, and again, that just all but confirms all our worst fears that against the better teams and with players like Porro doing defending, whom he shouldn't be even doing that. That is where we get found out, and it's actually happened once too often in the calendar year of 2024. If this persists, I think it's going to be just rinse and repeat, match after match, week after week, and this is why Big Ange has to really learn from this. And Porro himself, either he reinvents himself, or he just straight up tells us Spurs fans on social media, look, if the manager decides to put me there, this is what you expect from me. I mean, I try my best. I could really, run my socks off and run myself into the ground, but defending is not my forte, put it this way. And I really do hope that this is something that won't be seen very much often from between now to the end of season, possibly going into next season as well, assuming that he is still going to be with us. Don't get me wrong, as patchy as his form has been, I still feel that he is a more he has a lot to offer, especially going forward as Poro. But yeah, as far as defending is concerned, that is not going to be a long-term solution for us. And yeah, apart from that, I think you were spot on with the way we started the game. But again, if anything, that actually just makes it all the more worse if we do not capitalize on our home form, on home ground advantage, and on a bright start to the match. If it all just falters and peters out as the match progresses, then it all comes to naught. And that's exactly what we got at the end of the game. No goals and no points. And yeah, still lots to learn, but I'll take this defeat in our stride and onwards and upwards to next Wednesday. Having said that,
Mapping another goal on our right hand side. I was counting
Yeah.
at the beginning of the season, and I counted about 15. Now I know Romero's there, and you're either a Romero fan like I am, or you're not. But he hasn't been responsible for most of our goals. But again,
Yeah.
I mean, like if you're playing Spurs, you attack our right hand side, don't you?
Yeah, all the teams have been doing this season. You see wingers having so much joy on our right hand side. And I blame Ainge, by the way, for leaving poor isolated. You know, he cannot defend 1v1 and you leave him isolated on that side. Also playing Brennan Johnson, who doesn't like to track back at all. And he's all the way isolated with Doku. And also for that goal, I think Dancer should have done a little bit better. He was ball watching when Haaland was about to take a shot, like he was, I think, 2 3 yards back and he saw Holland take a shot and he was ball watching. I think at that moment you need to be sharp, you need to be alert, and you need to mark Erling Holland. You cannot let him have that much of space. You know he will kill the game. And for that moment, I blame Danzo. I think when we started the game, I think we were aggressive with the press. We dragged City back. They weren't quite able to move the ball freely as they were doing throughout the season. Yeah, a poor goal to consider. We've seen this over and over again against Newcastle, Brighton, Man United opened this up, and now City. It wasn't any more surprise to me.
Alan, Haaland, I mean, he's a handful, isn't he? He seems to stroll through games but turn up where it needs to be. He doesn't score in every game, but his
Yeah,
numbers at the end of the season are mental.
Mental. I mean, he's paid like what is he paid like 800 and something thousand a week or something like crazy like that?
Yeah.
He's on
I
because
mean,
he just signed a new contract. He's on
I'm not
just an
taking,
uncomfortable amount of money.
Alan, I'm not taking a cut in wages for no one. No.
But he that's the difference between someone like Holland and someone like Matthias Tell. I mean, it's not really a fair comparison. Holland is at his prime and is arguably one of the best strikers in the world, um, which is something we used to have. Um, but you know, he just he makes it look easy. I know it's not as easy as he makes it look. Um, but Doku is a great player. He kind of reminds me a bit of like an Alan St. Maximin kind of player. Very
yeah,
fast, good with the step overs, very tricky with his feet. Poro could not handle him. Uh, and it was unfortunate. More joy down the right side, which is, it's a theme we've talked about over and over on this channel is the joy. And I don't know, at some point, someone's going to say, hey, you know what, maybe we're not doing the right thing by leaving Poro here on the right. Maybe we're not, maybe there's some other way we could deal with it. Hey, Jed Spence doesn't seem to have the same problems. I mean, he can have an issue, but he doesn't have issues like Poro does.
Mm.
They don't get the same kind of joy down the right side when we have Spence there. So I don't know. It made sense that if it was going to happen, it was going to happen down the right side.
Drew, I mean, Haaland, I mean, if he could develop his game, he'd probably be one of the best strikers we've ever seen. But he does seem to stroll through games. I think what he has to his advantage, he's got imposing physicality. Where he could brush players off, and I think players are a bit fearful of him because of his physicality. It's good to have someone up there who's a big lump, you know.
Yeah, and he's fast as well. You know, he's not a slouch, and I think he's also played a lot of football the last 2 or 3 years. You got to remember that, and he is only 23 maybe. I don't even think he's 24 years old. So I know Alan said, you know, he's in his prime.
Way too young.
I think he's about 4 or 5 years away from his prime, which is actually the scariest
Oh,
thing
really?
on earth. I mean, that's you know, it's unbelievable. You think you've heard the name so many times, like Alan. It's not, you know, you think he's been around so long, and you think he has kind of been there and done it a little bit, and then you look at the stats, and you're like, Jesus, he's 23 years old. First person since Ruud van Nistelrooy to score three seasons of 20 goals back to back in the Premier League.
Wow.
I mean, the guy's just an absolute machine. And if we're like, and I say we just as a collective, if we're now, you know, comparing the likes of Erling Haaland, who is an absolute freak, to Matisse Tell, who's 19 years old, and you know, this is what, his 4th, 5th game in England, still learning. You know, I mean, I just as a species at the moment, or certainly as a society, we just write everything off far too quickly if it's not to our liking. And I just, I don't know, I don't know what it is. There used to be a time, and I sound like I'm your age, Adrian, and I'm only 45 years old, but I still remember a time. You know, I still remember a time when a player would play for your team, for your club. He would play for your club, and he'd wear that, you know, he'd wear the badge, and you would be like, well, this kid's only 19, like he's literally just learning his trade. Like, do you want? I can understand people. There's always this comparison. People always band about the name Salah. Mo Salah this, Mo Salah that. He's this, he's that. The dude is 32 years old, and he is at the absolute peak of his powers. Let me ask you this, to anybody in the chat. If you were having surgery and you obviously wanted to get a job done, would you take a surgeon who's been doing it for a year and is learning? Or would you take a surgeon that's been doing it for 10 years and knows his craft and knows exactly what he's doing? Well, guess what? You take the surgeon that's got 10 years of experience. And it's the same with anything else in any other walk of life. And yet we sit here, and just because we, you know, buy a ticket, or we've got a subscription, or we wear a shirt, we just think that we can sit behind our keyboard and slander every player for not kicking the ball this way, for not kicking the ball that way. If I was doing this, well, back in my day, and it boggles my mind sometimes. I just wish that we could just, I don't know, just back our players for a little bit, just give them a little bit of time. But yeah, sorry, ran over. In terms of Haaland,
I'm going to stand with you. I'm going to go back in reverse order. I'm going to stay with you.
Oh yeah, in terms of Haaland, freak. In terms of Doku's been given his chance to integrate himself into a team, and I think he's finally starting to show what he's capable of. I think he's had a rocky first 18 months, but I mean, the Premier League can show players up, right? The Premier League has made players, and it has absolutely broken players, and it's one of those things. You need, you know, people are either going to give you time to do your thing, or they're going to write you off right out the gate. And thankfully, he's been given time, and it's starting to come to fruition.
Well, he's keeping Grealish. I've always said it, even with our team, which we'll come on to later when we talk about future transfers and stuff like that. If you're a winger in my team, you've got to score goals.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I don't want you in the team. That's why I don't want Werner, right? And you've got to be composed in front of goal as well. Not a snapshot striker who might get lucky one season and get good numbers, and the following season, like Werner, not get them at all, because he's not a natural finisher. I mean, even if you're not...
He was at one point, that's the thing. And I think people, I don't know, people seem to hold on to that. Yeah. I don't know why, you know. He was he was dangerous in Germany, but that was years ago, and we're still waiting for that to come back, and it's not going to, Adrian.
Yeah, I remember talking to a coach once, and we were talking about strikers and chances, and he said the one thing that he hated was the fact when a striker gets through on goal and he just blasts it and it's straight at the keeper. He said, I'd rather the striker missed the inside of the post or it went past the far post, rolled past it, than hit the ball straight at the keeper. Just because it might make your stats look good at the end of the day as an individual player. And I think some players, this is why some players don't take risks. They don't want their stats at the end of the day to look bad. But we move on to this with you, Drew. I'll come with you and going backwards. 28 minutes, Savino glaring miss. Savino hits the ball into the ground over the bar from a Doku pass. That should have been 2-0.
Yeah.
Should have been 2-0. Terrible pass. Terrible finish from that side of the field again, from Porro's side. And even a couple of minutes later, there's an even worse one where there's a ball over the top from their right back. I want to say maybe it was Nunes, possibly, or Kovacic, but he pops a ball over the top to Savio, I think, who kind of ends up going on a run and comes in field. And Porro, from a really lazy right back position where he wasn't even following the line anyway, decides to make this marauding run, basically almost parallel with the penalty spot, to block Savio. And if Savio had had half a second more to look, he'd have chipped it over him, and Doku would have been free at the far post again. And I think it's part system, part Porro. I don't know what to do. I don't know why it keeps happening. But yeah, Savio glaring miss, should have been 2. But I think if Savio's still there in a year, which I think he will be, I think he'll be tucking those away all day long.
We'll come to the next one. Alan, Werner would have been proud of that miss, wouldn't he?
If Pep had hair, he would have lost it all over again.
He'd have been jealous of it, I reckon, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely one for the Werner books. It's Doku. That was the second pass that he made. That was like spot on, really good. Again, Joy. Was it down? Was it also down the right side? It was, right? Porro missed it. Doku passed it. Savini totally bumbled it.
Yeah.
It should have been 2-0 at that point. 100% 2-0. And if that was us, if that was Werner or someone, I mean, I could imagine the fans would have gone absolutely ballistic over that miss.
Mapping, this was their third chance. Good save by Ricardo. So they could have gone in 3-0 at half time, but they didn't have no more chances after this. They had a lot of the ball. They showed a bit more energy than us in that first half. And then, good save by Vicario.
Yeah, till 25th minute, till 30th minute, I think we were starting to keep the ball away in midfield quite a lot. And to that, they were trying to counter-attack us right in our own half. And I thought Haaland scored that one, but Vicario, I think that was a really good save. That's why we miss Vicario a lot. People were saying that Kingsley will start ahead of Vicario. That was absolute ridiculous take, Like Vicario is our best keeper by country mile. I think his shot stopping is excellent, though he's a bit lackluster in his feet, but yeah, that was a good save.
And we pick up a yellow card chain because really they were on top. They had a very good first half. They were on top and they looked threatening every time they pushed forward. I don't believe, like some fans have said for different reasons, that they could have been 4 or 5 up front half time. But it should definitely have been 2-0 and possibly 3-0 up front. You can take the Haaland shot at Vicario when he saves it low as a missed opportunity or a great save. It all depends how you look at it, doesn't it? But they should definitely have been 2-0 up at half time.
Yeah.
I mean, this right here is the definition of taking one for the team. And Bentancur did what any midfielder in his own right would have done, just to keep the score respectable going into the halftime. This is why I really feel that the modern fan really needs to take a good hard look at themselves of not being there for the team if and when they really do need the support when things aren't going our way. Because if that first half had ended 2 or 3 nil at home
Hmm.
against a team that we've already won twice, we've already beaten them twice. Once in the FA Cup, no, the League Cup, and once in the league away from home. If we had gone into the break 2 or 3 nil down, then in all probability, the booing will be coming back. The boos will be ringing all around the stadium, despite us winning 3 league games on the trot. And this is why I felt that going into that half only at 1-0 down was probably the impetus that Big Ange needed to bring on those players that came on, the Sunnies and the Kulusevskis, and that I think should be something to look at when we do, when we find ourselves with our backs against the wall, and we have this uphill task or uphill, fight on our hands. And I really am sure that come the knockout stages of the Europa League, the players themselves, they will know what's at stake. Uh, Given everything that's happened this season, and not only just this season, since Big Ange took over, we've been seeing this far too often, whereby we just give away leads willy-nilly, almost at will sometimes, regardless if it's home or away or in any competition for that matter. And it was a breath of fresh air. Don't get me wrong. To be taking the lead against United and Brentford and Ipswich, but conceding first and not being able to respond, or at times just responding far too late for any of it to even matter come full time, is something that Big Ange needs to address. And I for one honestly felt that things could have been a lot different in the second half had he just brought on the substitutes at the stroke of halftime, just before the second half got underway. But maybe, just maybe, this is something that he needs to see for himself, that those players that he entrusted to come on in that first half, they be given their full hour of game time. And you know what? If things don't start improving, then for the final half hour, your Madisons and Kulusevski had every right to come on to try and force the
On
issue.
that, Shang, I'm going to stay with you on that because I know
Okay.
your time's limit on that.
Okay.
I believe this is the cynic in me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ange always says his plays a strong lineup. All right, it was a strong lineup. The front three
Mm-hmm.
didn't function as well. You need movement and all that. But look, this smells of me of Alkmaar on Thursday. He kept them on the bench for that reason. He knows he's under pressure to, to win that competition. And I think that was the reason why he left it to the hour mark before he brought them on. He knows they're going to be fresh for Thursday. That's my cynical view on it. What do you think? Or any of you?
Okay, so this is my own cynical view. This might actually rub some of you the wrong way, and it might be even taken out of context if someone were to sort of, crop this or, make a clip out of this. I honestly feel that from between now to the end of the season, we already know that we are pretty much safe from relegation, and we can't go anywhere in the league right now.
Yeah.
So why not just use the remaining quarter of this league to sort of use it as a test bed or a sort of a training ground for players whom I feel have been found wanting for most of the season, and especially for those players whom were so not to put too much pressure on them, but we expected a lot more of them. The Bisumas, the Werners, or even your midfielders, the SARS. A lot of these players whom I felt should and could have contributed a lot more to us from going down that decline. I felt that they themselves they only have themselves to blame. And for the remainder quarter of this season, I would really love to see a lot of these players either prove us wrong and prove Ange wrong that they have something left to contribute beyond this season, or this is their curtain call, and for a lot of those youngsters, the Dane Scarlets, your Mikey Moores, let them have this final quarter of a season to get regular game time, if only for an hour or so. Let them, bed into the squad on a more regular basis, and let's prioritize the Europa League over the actual domestic league. Because as I said, we can't really get relegated, and it's not like we can go on a run and try and force our way back into top 7 or top 8 and try to qualify unrealistically through qualification via the domestic league rather than winning the Europa League. So prioritize the Europa League. I thought that that lineup against City was the best way to go about it, and I would not be surprised that the next game, I think it's against Bournemouth, isn't it? On Sunday, the next home league game would be something similar along the lines of the team that we fielded against City. But let's just wait and see. Let's just wait and see what kind of team Big Ange brings with him to Alkmaar. And the outcome of that also would impact the starting 11 for next Sunday. But regardless of the players that take to the pitch, I am always going to be supporting them, even if it's a Timo Werner or a Richarlison that comes on. As long as they put on Lily White, I'll be supporting them from kickoff to the final whistle. But a lot of those players which I mentioned earlier, they have to really pull up their socks, or this could be their final curtain call.
Drew, at last, I'm sitting in my seat. We get a chance. It was a decent chance, and it called Edison into a good save, and then I'm breathing a sigh of relief that we're only going in 1-0 at half time.
It's funny. I'm actually, I'm rewatching the match on my phone as we're talking about it, and actually that moment just passed. But then immediately after that, they get a corner. James Maddison plays it short, and it gets intercepted. And they went on a break, and they could have, if the final ball had been half decent, they could have scored on the break. So Danzo. I mean, if we're sticking with Danzo just for a second, he's very, very powerful in the air. And he's a very powerful individual, and I've been really, really impressed with some of the stuff I've seen from him. And Edison, he was always going to get over to it and get a hand to it, but at least he made him work, and he got us a corner, so can't complain. Sloppy corner right afterwards. Sloppy corner.
He just chose football over rugby. He was a rugby player. Right, Alan, to you. 56 minutes. We come out the second half with a spring in our step, even before the substitutions. Got fouls to convert. I spelled this wrong. From a fizzing Porolo cross to the far post. It's a sort of chance on the opposite side that Johnson buries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not had much time, has he?
We're talking about Odebear? No. Odebear was, he hasn't had much game time at all. It's this. Would Johnson have even? I want to give a little bit of credit to Odebear. I don't know that Poro's fizzing shot was. I think it was a little too far ahead, if I remember correctly. Just a hair too far ahead for Odebear. It would have been a cracking goal for. It was a really good cross, so it would have been an awesome goal to score at a critical time, but wasn't meant to be. Again, I don't want to be too harsh on Odebear because he's just coming back from what was before a season-ending injury, so it's kind of like, remember when Bentancur was that way, when he was super injured, and everyone was a little concerned. What kind of Bentancur are we going to get back? So I think with Wilson Odebear, unfortunately, we just never really got to see him before he got injured. He was kind of like Solomon. Solomon was there for like a couple games, and then he got injured. Odebear was there for a couple of games, and then he got injured. I remember we were going through that at a period of time where that was happening to us. So I saw moments of what looks good. He seems fast. Seems to take on the defender. I think, unfortunately, Tell did not have a very great game, and
No.
I don't think Tell is not really a 9 in my opinion. He wasn't played as a 9 for Bayern. He was played on the wing. So
Is going to be once Solanke or even Richarlison's back, you're going to play them in the middle rather than him.
yeah, because you can see how he is not naturally, nor is he probably is he all that trainable to be trained to. He just doesn't seem to be that player.
And this stat may surprise you. Tell only had one touch in the second half.
Oh, yeah, that
It doesn't
good touch
surprise
when
me. He didn't have a
yeah.
great game, but I mean, he wasn't getting a lot of service. Johnson wasn't getting him much service. Odegaard wasn't giving him much service. It's kind of like Solanke. The only reason why Solanke gets so many touches is because he tracks back and worked really hard to get the ball moving back up, the right way. Tell is just so young. I don't think Tell is, and he's not naturally a 9. So
No.
I think we're sort of, again, it was my concern early on having so many young players starting.
Yeah.
It puts a lot of pressure on them to succeed, and the fans have every reason to hold them to that level. If the coach is going to put them out there, for their heads out there, they're either going to hang them or put a crown on it. But I think it's just a little too much pressure for the young people. To be honest, I think this is where experience would come in and maybe help us a little more, personally.
Right.
Chang, do you have to depart from us?
I've left you a message, Chang. Leave me your YouTube Earl in the private chat before you go.
Okay,
please.
sure, I will. And thank you very, very much for having me on, even if it's only for an hour, Mr. Sroka. But in the coming Fridays, especially once the knockout stages of the Europa League get underway, you can count on me to be.
Well, you're always welcome on a Friday because we have late shows for our American, Canadian, Aussie audiences and others in the Southern Hemisphere as well. This is the reason we're doing this show. So we hope to towards the next couple of months pick up more viewers. We've got 20 viewing now, which we might struggle with the UK audience at 8 o'clock, at 11 o'clock now. And I don't mind staying up late if it's worthwhile. So
from March onwards, you can count on me to be here on time, from 10 or even 9 p.m. UK time on a Friday night to well past midnight if need be, because the fasting month will be well underway, and I have the entire office to myself while the Muslims go on their fast. Absolutely looking forward to much. Have a fabulous end to the month of February, everyone. I look forward to seeing some of you, or even most of you, in a week's time. And come on, you Spurs. Chang out from Southeast Asia, everybody.
Thanks,
See you
Chang.
later.
Good on you,
You're always welcome. All our guests are always
Nice to meet you, bro.
Mapping, 57 minutes. Madison yellow card for a rugby tackle on Savino, right? It made us all laugh in the stadium, but nice to see we're showing some of the dark arts when it's necessary as well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a good fault to think, because
and to stick with you, 65 minutes, you doggy cross to Tell, who shoots wide. That was just wide of the post. It didn't quite connect as well with it as he could have. Otherwise, it had been on the goal, wouldn't it? And I think this was about his only touch in the second half, right?
I think
right. Okay.
One good touch.
Go on.
He had one good touch as well. I think when he controlled the ball and linked that ball with, I think it was Sonia who. Yeah, I think he touched the ball at that time as well.
I got that one touch of a Rob Guest with Ali Gold, actually, so I'll take his word for it. He may have, so he might have missed one, right? And then, first substitution on 66 minutes. This is where my cynical nature came in. Because I thought, he's going to be fresh for Thursday. And then a minute later, Sarr comes on for Benica, Spence come on Udogi, and Son came on for Odeberg. We'll talk about individual performances after we've done this. 82 minutes, Werner for Maddison. Well, you can read into this, Drew, can't you? The reason Werner's been brought on the 82nd minute is like, look, City didn't sit back in that second half, right? When we brought the subs on, from that moment on, we pressed them like mad. And even they started mistakes with the ball. And we kept coming at them, didn't we, you know?
Yeah, but Werner's done nothing to suggest that being put in that position leads to him giving any kind of output, you know? So I don't know why we're still... I mean, yes, I get it. It works in theory, but so does communism. Like,
Yeah.
I don't... And that's a Simpsons reference for anyone that remembers. But I just, like, I don't know why we're still sticking him on with 8 minutes to go. I would rather have stuck... you know, more on with 8 minutes to go. I would rather have started with Sonny. Like, I would rather have done any. I'd have rather given myself a stub my toe on a door jam than seen.
I could have understood it. I could have understood it if we're winning 1-0 and it's a tactical substitution just to break the play.
If you're running him into the corner, if all you need to do is get the ball to him and have him waste time by running into a corner like a headless chicken, then fair play. But like I say, he's done nothing this season or really last season to suggest he's clinical enough to make something happen in the last 8 minutes when you're chasing something. And I'm sort of partly with Chang and partly not. I think, I mean, there's 33 points left to play for. I know that everybody's got, everybody in front of us is likely still to pick up points, but everybody in front of us or everyone above us still has to play each other to a certain extent. So if you take the hypothesis, that anything's kind of possible, is it likely? Probably not. But if you go into a situation and think, well, it's not likely, then you might as well just give up before you started. But if you can possibly get some sort of cohesive unit playing football and sort of, I don't know, is it out of this world to think we might get 20 points? I mean, I personally don't think it is. I think if you got Romero and VDV coming back, especially, and they can hit the ground running, plus you've got Danzo, who I think has been, a breath of fresh air. I think there's still something possible in the league. Chances are Champions League goes down to 5th. There's a possibility, does an English team win a European trophy? Do the places to go down a little bit further? I'm not too snobby to sit here and go, I'd really like a trophy, but I just don't want that trophy. So, I mean, if we get the Europa Conference, then we get the Europa Conference. I mean, it's another cup potentially to win. Everybody wanted to win the Carabao Cup a couple of weeks back, but all of a sudden at the beginning of the season, everyone's like, oh, well, of all the cups, I don't really want to win that one. that's just not quite good enough for me. It doesn't sparkle, have quite enough silver in it. I'd rather have one of the other ones. I mean, can we stop? Can we actually, I personally think we should be aiming to put out the strongest team in every match, barring causing any kind of rupture or causing any discomfort to any of the players. Like if it's legitimately going to cause injury, then obviously don't play them. But other than that, this is the business end of the season, and half of these players have had half the amount of games that they should have had. So for me, they should all be on exercise bikes. They should all be building up their stamina, and they should be going hell for leather within reason for the end of the season. And we should be getting as far up the table as possible, and we should be aiming to be getting to the final and arguably, ideally, winning the cup. Yeah. And I don't see any reason why that's not possible.
And on your take on down to 5th, well, if an English team wins the Europa League, and it's going to be us, we're going to win this competition, right? Mark my words. Clip that, and that would bring you down to 6th. But in theory, if one of our teams wins it, in theory, if all the stars align, it could go to 7th for the Champions League next year. Then you've got 2 places League, and you've got one for the Conference League. So you could actually, in theory, it probably won't align, but I see it going to 6th because I see us winning that, and we'll get the 5th place for the coefficient because the English clubs are doing a lot better in Europe than they did last year, right? In all competitions. And so we'll get the 5th coefficient place. Winning the Europa League gives 6. So we'll see where it ends up. And personally, I know you'd want to be in the Conference League. I wouldn't, unless we just used it and abused it for playing kids to give them some time. It'd be useful for that. It just, I'm old school. It just, the Europa Conference just doesn't do nothing for me at all. Nothing at all.
I just don't think we can afford to be that picky. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody, I honestly believe that if you're a genuine football club, you go in to win every competition that you're in. Now, you can argue, well, it's a worthless competition. Fair enough. You can argue Carabao Cup, worthless competition. Fair enough. Too much football's played. I absolutely get it. But I mean, Daniel's point here, I mean, I get it, Daniel, big up. All focus should be on winning the Europa League. I'm sorry, going for Europa Conference qualification is backward step. I'm not suggesting we should go for Europa Conference qualification. I'm suggesting that as Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, we should be aiming to get as high in the league as we possibly can. And if that means that we then get Europa Conference League qualification on the back of that, then that's what happens. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, we should throw all our eggs into the Europa League basket, but I'd rather finish 10th instead of 7th when there's the potential to finish 7th. Like, that makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm sorry.
No, we should aim to finish as high as we can. Always. You know, I mean, that should be the goal. Aim to finish as high as we can. Right.
I mean, I think it would be great if let's just say if we did get in, just say we go into the conference, we're all arguing about, players don't get the right amount of minutes in the right competitions, or we play these players there when we should play these players there. Chelsea are doing a pretty good job this season using their fringe squad or their second string or whatever you want to call it to give them quite a lot of rotation and plenty of minutes in that competition. Who's to say we've got all these young kids that need minutes, and we've got this first team that we want to keep fresh and lively for the league. Well, you can balance that out. You could have a scenario where you're breathing, Archie Gray is pulling trees up in the Europa Conference or, the Europa League like he has been doing. And he can progress in that while the main bulk of the squad can go on a Premier League tear and things like that. So I just
on Archie Gray, he got the Young Player of the Year award, London Wolves.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Congrats to him, and well deserved, fully deserved, right? Okay, back onto the game a bit.
I think we can all agree we want to see him play in the 6th. I think we can all agree on that.
But he keeps him playing in centre back.
Mappen, 85 minutes. Edison denies Son from close range.
Oh yeah, that was a great chance, by the way. Brilliant ball as well from, I think, Johnson. Yeah, I think it was Johnson, right? He beats his man. I think that was Ruben Diaz who dribbles past and puts that ball to Johnson. And it was a half chance. I wouldn't say it was a sitter, but I think Son should have scored. Yeah, Son, I think he has been that much sharp with his finishing this season. He has missed lots of chances. I think he missed against Aston Villa. Now he missed his chance or so. But what can we do? If he scored that, then we will be back in the game, and it would be 1-1. We could have won it if Son scored that, but he missed it. Yeah. But it was a good play by Johnson for me.
Alan, 87 minutes, saw yellow card for fouling Foden, staying with you. And then we get the controversial, it's 1-0, it's near the end of the game. I don't think fans cared one way or another because no one expects us to get a late chance after this, which we did get. But, yeah. Ireland discount. How did you see that? I mean, I'm at the wrong end of the pitch to see this.
It was really hard. From all the angles they showed at home,
yeah,
it was really difficult to see. So I think that's why they just stayed with the on-field ruling? Isn't that what they did? Because they couldn't figure out.
Which made me wonder at the stadium, if you're going with the on-field referee, why are you taking so long over this?
Yeah.
I've always said with VR, you should have a 30-second counter because you're watching everything in slow motion studying every frame to the nth degree to make a decision. That's not fair to the on-field referee, and some on-field referees are letting VAR referee the game instead of them, right? So I'm thinking, no, you should have the real time. You shouldn't be watching it in slow motion. You should be watching it in real time, the same as the referee. Then call it. If you get it right, you get it wrong. That's fine. You know, we know the press will go back and put all the pictures up and say, oh, they got this wrong. But it should be done in real time. A referee's got a split second to make a decision, penalty or not, right? I mean, and all right, we know VAR's proved to be more accurate, but the reason it's proved to be more accurate, in my opinion, is because they spend so much time making a decision. So to me, not anti-VAR, I'm anti the time it takes them to make decisions. If you're forced to make it within 30 seconds, call it. And regardless of the offside, I'm not having this because I don't trust officials at the best of times, right? I thought the referee wasn't that great in the Man City game. You know, I didn't think he was great. He didn't give us free kicks we should have had, but gave them free kicks, right? I mean, I'm a Spurs fan. I will admit that, right? But, yeah. So with me and VAR, yeah, you're more accurate because you spend like minutes deciding it. And that's a threat to players' welfare because their muscles are cooling down while they're waiting 5 or 6 minutes, right? That can't be good when you're an athlete and you're running around. So that's my little rant over, right?
I wanted to go back really quickly with regard to Son missing that sitter. It's, you know, Son, he has to score those goals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like an unwritten. It's like it should be unwritten in his contract. When it comes to big moments like that, Heung-min Son should be scoring those goals. You know, I wouldn't expect.
He has got 10 goals and 10 assists this season, which are good numbers for a winger. But I'll agree. What I've seen to the eye test this season is not the sharpest Son. He's not been fresh. He's looked knackered, and he's blasted a few over the bar in other games as well, which would at least got him on target. Which just shows he's not at his best. But even though he's not at his best, he's getting chances. You know.
No, he still has chances, but I think in baseball, you get like, you know, your clutch hitters, you know, these guys who, you know, when push comes to shove, they can hit the ball wherever it needs to go, whether it's all the way out, whether it's a triple, whatever. You have to depend on those players. And Heung-min Son is one of our clutch players. He's someone that we should feel confident can rise to the occasion in those moments. It's why he's paid the bigger buck. It's why he is who he is. Fans should feel confident, and he should be confident in himself that he is of a level that he can score those kinds of goals. And we should depend on him to score those goals. And when he can't score those goals, I don't know how we're supposed to score goals and win. So I was really let down that he didn't score there.
Well, what about this? What was your take on this? Goal or not goal?
I mean, the Haaland goal. I mean, did we even care? I mean, if to add another tally to Haaland's tally, you know, big deal. I don't even think Haaland cared. He didn't seem to mind the fact that it got disallowed. You know, he's like, whatever. He'll score 2 in the next game. Whatever. You know, I don't think Haaland cared. I don't think the fans cared.
Yeah. And then Drew. Just when we thought, we all thinking our game's over, getting up our seats, getting ready to go. The Porro cross. This was weird. It come off of Son's back. He got too far forward. But he did seem to bend for it or something or whatever. Because it's weird that he could hit him like that. And then Sarr steams into the box, energetic Sarr. And he heads it over. And we go, oh my God, football's cruel. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
it is a little bit cruel. And it's just, I mean, I hate it. It's one of those situations where you're clutching at those sorts of things, saying, I wish that had gone in and we grabbed a point when, you know, we kind of imposed ourselves enough in that second half that, and again, it's one of those things, you know, 19-year-old Tell, unfortunately, he's been asked to do a lot. I mean, how many 19-year-olds do you know that lead the line for a Premier League football team, and the dude to the left of them and the dude to the right of them, they've played maybe a total of about 200 minutes of football together. So, you know, and you know, this is a thing. Like Manchester City are kind of in the same boat at the moment. Like I've been using this thing recently, or certainly the last few weeks, where if you look at the nucleus, or you look at the starting 11, or our average starting 11 this season, and you actually look at the amount of games, the amount of minutes they've got between them in terms of like relationships and knowing where each other is on the pitch and things like that. Like we are the tiniest embryo or a baby bird. And then you look at Man City and you think to yourself, well, you know, these players have been there and done it with each other for a while. But truth be told, they kind of haven't. You know, I mean, Doku, I mean, he's obviously been there a season and a half. Doku and Haaland sort of know each other. Silvinho's not been there too long, you know, so that's a relatively new relationship with them. Marmoush has only just come in, you know, Gonzalez has only just come in, Kuzanov has only just come in, so they've still got some new players as well. And I think, you know, we're going to touch on the statistics. I know the eye test is one thing and statistics are another, but we are going to touch on it, Adrian, because if you do look at them, I mean, it wasn't that far off. And I know you're going to deep dive into those numbers in a little while, so I won't go into too much detail. But, you know, on any other day, there's a possibility that it's 1-0 to us. It was a somewhat exciting game of football for them, you know, for us in the second half. It's a shame. Obviously, as I say, I always want us to win. It's especially at home, especially for the home fans. But I'm still, you know, we went toe-to-toe with a very good side. Haaland bullies players, and he only managed to score one goal, and he was up against a 19-year-old or 18-year-old defensive midfielder, moonlighting as a centre-back with a partner that he's played half a dozen games with. So, as I say, I see positive green shoots. But yeah, thankfully we haven't got to play any more teams from Manchester this year. So
we've done so well against Manchester clubs this year.
Well, this is
we
true.
have
this is
2 out
true.
of 3 against Man City.
I just don't want to, you know. Enough's enough. Like,
I'm going to come to the stats before the players actually, and then when we'll have our take on individual performances, right?
Yeah.
Because you know, you lose a game, the tendency is like, oh, it gets toxic, everything's bad, they should have scored 8, you know, and all that. And you get all that with teams and all that, which is even at the stadium, because after we come out the game, I mean, I think there's a proportion of the Spurs fan base resigned to the fact we're winning mid-table. So, okay, we lost 1-0. You know, it's not a disgrace. We're not too fussed about it. You get fans like me that are disappointed because we've lost, because I'm always disappointed when we lose at home, especially when you're at home. It's worse when you're a fan that's travelled to an away game, you lose. That's worse. You've got a journey home. It sticks in your craw, right? I've had years of that in the past, right? I haven't got the energy for away games now, right? Yeah. And then you look at that second half performance, and we can be hindsight critics and say, yeah, we would have played him or bring him on earlier and do that, right? Because it was a very good second half performance for a half hour in that second half. And it wasn't because they sat back. They made mistakes. We pressed them better. We were in their faces more. And let's go through the stats now, which might surprise a few people. Well, like, we lost, that's fair enough. They should have been 2-0 up minimum first half, right? I'll agree. But you look at the stats. We had 56 possession to their 44%. That might surprise people. We had 6 shots on target to their 4. We won 56% of the duels to their 44. Total shots, we had 11. They had 12 on target. We had 6 corners to their 5, right? We had 15 clearances to their 17 because we were pressing them. Look at this. We had 529 passes to their 416. You know, I mean, like, okay, you can make a lot of passes among your back 4 where they're not effective. So that can give you a false narrative, right? Pass accuracy was virtually identical. Crosses, we had 16 to 12. I didn't think we crossed the ball. Tackles won 58. They won a lot more of the tackles, right? Which, because we did press them. I mean, like, these show that, like, it's perceptions, really. If you want to be a fan that wants to slate the team for losing, fair enough. That's your opinion. That's your perception. That second half, and the crowd really got up because the players were like trying. And the crowd, man, they really got behind the team in the second half. And at the end, when Sonny was arguing the referee about you should have played another couple of minutes. And I get that because I thought, hang on, you did blow. I think you blew up a bit short. The substitutions during the extra time and things like that. And Man City were pleased to get off the pitch. But Pep was very good with his praise about us at the end of the game. But that's easy to do when you win, isn't it?
Well, just to deep dive a little bit, just on a couple of the stats as well.
These ain't all the stats, by the way. I can't fit them all.
No, not all of them. But people will say, "Oh, we had more passes than them. Well, our passes were, all our passes go sideways, da 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 da." So total passes, we had 529 to their 416. Accurate passes, we had 465 to their 363. Backwards passes, we had 81 to their 70. But forward passes, we had 152 to their 122. So that's kind of a +10 swing in positivity if you're talking about positional passes and playing it, whether it's forward or backwards. So, admittedly, their final third passes were a little better. They had 94 to our 75. Touches in the opponent box, we had 27, they had 29. And then we were only dispossessed 5 times. They were dispossessed 14 times. So if you break down the stats a little bit further, you do start to see that actually, it was a pretty, if anything, I think we edged it in a couple of the key stats there. And I think, again, it's a tale of the season. If we'd have had, I believe, if we'd have had a fully fit Sonny or a fully fit Brennan Johnson and a Solanke up front instead of a Tell,
I think
then I think we'd have put a couple of those away. But then it's one of those things, isn't it? What do they say? If my
I think if we had
if my auntie had a wheel, she'd have been a bike. So
yeah, as they say, if my aunt had bollocks, she'd be my uncle, right?
Yeah, right. There you go.
you hit the nail on the head. I think with the Solanke thing. Because you need someone in the middle. Look at Chelsea struggling. Look at other teams that are struggling. They haven't got a number 9.
Arsenal, same thing.
When you play this horseshoe football, you need someone in the middle. Yeah. You need that option. And we've seen it before with other teams. Let's go through players. I'll give you sort of one each when I pair them up. I think we can say Vicario was pretty sound during this game. He made that low save, didn't he, from Haaland? Now, okay. Pick one.
Well, hang on. Sorry, Adrian. Just before you start that, just a quick question from Blaine here. It says, lads, do you think we're also just outmatched? Pep didn't start with a high line to allow us as much space, and they didn't press us to the back either, meaning until Odegaard and Johnson couldn't break. That's a valid point. I feel like he did give us. They did kind of give us the ball and say, "Well, come on, then break us down."
Well. Not so much with the press because Haaland can look a lazy sod at a lot of times. But what I noticed, they were like in that first half. I'm looking at their shape and ours, and they were 4-2-4. They had 4 players forward, right? So
4 back,
and that's probably because Haaland doesn't press so much. He doesn't. He tends to stroll through games. Yet he still seems to get 40 goals a season, right? Which is annoying. Well, I don't mind him scoring against teams as long as it's not against us, right? But they had like a 4-2-4, and they would drop back into sort of more like of a 4-2-4-4-2 when we had the ball. And when you looked at our performance second half, we are always better when we move the ball a lot more quicker, and it was more effective when Kulu came on, and especially when Spence came on, wanted to take it on, and Odegaard probably had Ange in his ear at half-time. Look, just take him on. I mean, he comes with good rep. He comes from the PSG Academy. He went to Burnley. Vincent Kompany's raving about him. And we see flashes in that second half of Odegaard. He gets in this team, I think he's going to be one of them unplayable players on his day. He does look that good, and against City, but the issue we have usually is when we play well against a team or beat a name or a team with a reputation, it's always because they're poor or bad or in crap form, and we were lucky.
Well, it's still, and it's still another Daniel 90. Big up Daniel, says here, bad finishing in the second half. Yeah, arguably, probably from both, just across the board, really. But it's another game, and I know I hate it. It's another loss, but it is only another loss by a single goal. That to me is another thing where I think to myself, if you give these players another 50, 60, 100 games playing together, and I know that sounds like a lot, but if you go into some of these other teams, like them up the road, Odegaard and Rice and that, they've already played, because of the amount of games they play and because the Europeans, they've already played 70, 80, 90 games together, some of these players. And we're still looking at a team that have, in the Premier League, I think Romero and Van der Ven, I don't even think they've played 38 games together. They've not even played an entire season together. And they've been together for 2 seasons. So there's just so many broken they're not broken necessarily, but there are so many sort of patterns of play where we're just not quite there. And the problem with Ange's system is if you're not quite in the right place at the right time, it can look drastically bad, and it just kind of falls apart. And I know some people will say, well, that's the problem then, because there's no plan B, but I just think it's about refining plan A. And I think when you get these players, when they are finally in the places they're supposed to be, and they've been there and done it for 50, 60, 70 games, like I said, with each other, and everybody knows where each other is, and they're singing off of the same hymn sheet, and you don't have a 19-year-old leading the line, and you don't have an 18-year-old centre-back, I think it's just still plenty to be optimistic about. And as I say it out loud, I know it sounds deluded, but I'm still, still hoping. But yeah, we'll go through these players, Adrian.
Yeah, Vicario didn't that much to do, actually. It wasn't like he was under fire at any stage. But Alan, pick one, Udogie or Porro?
I'll take Udogie. I thought he looked a bit rusty coming back. He didn't track back as quickly as he could. It means something to me that he stood out as not being that good in the first half, and considering how most of the team wasn't very good in the first half, him standing out says something. Again, I'm surprised that we're throwing these players in the moment they're healthy. When we see what they do with Richarlison, they slowly bring them back in. Maybe in the second half they sub them in. And I guess again, because I'm not of. I've already seen us try to rest players for specific games, and it didn't work. So I'm not really in the camp of we got to sit players to rest them for a specific game, because we've seen it not work already this season. So I don't see why Udogie started, to be honest. I think he needs I think he really does need some more time, because I think there are other players that have stepped up in his absence.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I get where he's coming from. He needs to put minutes in players' legs. I totally get it. But I think, I don't know, what do I know? I'm not a football coach. But to me, it just seems like you would have at least played 2 of the 3, in my mind. In that game, you start with Spence at left back and Son on the left, and Kulu on the bench, or you do Son and Kulu and Spence is on the bench, or you do Spence and Kulu and Sonny's on the bench. At least I understand needing to get minutes in legs, but surely for the sake of, what did Odegaard actually lineups? Does it say? It doesn't say when he came on. I mean, for the sake of what was it, Odegaard playing 60 minutes and Son playing 40, or Odegaard playing 70 and Son playing 30. I mean, really, is there any huge difference at this time of the season for Son not to get the start in 60 or 70 and for Odegaard to come off? I mean, there is a sort of a meritocracy hierarchy thing going on as well. Like, I get it. You need to get him up to speed, but we're also, I say, I don't know. Maybe I'm on the different page to my club, but in my head, we should be pushing, right?
Are you one of those fans that sort of says like, okay, if you've got a history of players scoring against a team like Son, Kulu, Sarr have scored against Man City, are you one of those that are in for like, okay, we'll play them because they've scored against them before?
Not really. I mean, possibly if the playing squad is still the same, but I'm not really one for this. Oh, we've beaten them, over the course of the last 10 years, this, that. I mean, there were just so many different squads and teams and tactics and rotations, and I'm not sure that I do. But that being said, the next time we play him and Kulusevski scores a hat-trick, ask me again, and I'll say yes, absolutely. Like, do you know what I mean? But I guess less from that standpoint and more from the standpoint of, it's Manchester City. We're at home. We don't have another game. And I guess Daniel 90, going back to Daniel's point, I can understand wanting to prioritise and should be the Europa League. And I get it. I guess in this instance, what I'm seeing is because there's an FA Cup weekend and we don't have a game, I guess in my head, I'm like, well, there's 8 days. Why would you not? I mean, if we're talking running the risk of injury again, then I understand it. But you're starting to say that people are coming back and they're getting fully fit. Well, if that's the case, if you've got 8 days to give them a rest, when actually it's starting to get to the point where 8-9 days rest might actually be a little bit detrimental, because then you start to lose match fitness as opposed to just stamina fitness. So, I don't know. I just would have, I would have liked to have gone in a little stronger, just simply because there was more of a rest time. But Udogie, he looks like he's coming back from injury. Yeah. It looks like he's not quite on the same page. He started the season not with a pre-season. So the beginning of the season was his pre-season, which is why he looked a little bit flat when everybody else was kind of not. So I think it's a shame, because his season seems to have been disrupted to the point where he's almost like a couple of months behind everybody else. He seems to be playing sort of catch up all the time. And it's just different players, different horses for different courses. Some players just come back and just hit the ground running quicker than others do. There are some people that say Udogie's flat as to deceive and he's a bit of a waste of space. I haven't really made my mind up with him yet. I've seen him play absolutely fantastically at times. But now all of a sudden, the new kid on the block, Spencer's come in and he looks fantastic. So now Udogie maybe doesn't look as good as maybe people thought he did. I'm not sure. As far as, just so I've gone off course a little bit. As far as Porro, again, if you were going to play Udogie, I would have liked to have seen Spence on the other side and just play Udogie and Spence and given Porro a rest. So I think he was all right. He played a couple of nice balls, a couple of times where he was way out of position, as always. I'm starting to think more and more that it's a combination of the Ange system and Pedro Porro himself being just a little bit cavalier. It's suspect down that side, man, and it's going to continue to be suspect until they figure it out.
Alan, pick one, Gray or Danso?
I'll go with Danzo. I think Danzo has done an admirable job. This is a player who a month ago or so was playing in Lille, right? Wasn't he in Lille? Or Lens, one of those. And he comes right into our squad, and he kind of picks up as if he was always there and never left. He didn't have the best first half. None of the players did. But I don't, and he was, what I noticed, he was actually fairly chummy with Holland throughout the game. I noticed they were doing a lot of talking to each other, which, I mean, is fine. They're individuals. They're allowed to be friendly with each other. But during the game, he looked a little too friendly with Holland. And I don't know if that was what led to him kind of being a little too far away from Holland for that goal.
When you talk about pairs, I mean, like Spence was at Rennes with Doku.
Yeah. But Danzo did a good job. Look in that header. It was trickier. I played goal before, and when those balls are coming in, they're spinning he's kind of a weird spin to it. The way it hit, bounced off of Danzo's head. The ball coming down when Ederson is going up for the ball to try and kind of knock it over. It's not an easy spin. It looked like a more complicated save than it looked more. It was probably more complicated than what Ederson made it look. So it was a good header. I like Danzo, and I think that he is what Dragusin was sold to us as, in my opinion. Dragusin was kind of sold to us as a solid third center back, and I don't think he lived up to that. Danzo has.
Well, Danzo appears to be more versatile anyway than Dragusin. He's got more in his locker at this stage. Yep. But like Dragusin's young, started brightly with us, and then it's looked suspect, doesn't he?
Yeah.
It's suspect. One of those things. I think I said on a show a couple of weeks ago, even the last show. It's one of those things where you don't quite realize. I mean, it's easy to make comparisons, and then you go, well, hang on a minute. Danzo's 26 years old, and Dragusin's 22. And you look at Dragusin, and he looks like he should have a sword and a shield and be slaying dragons somewhere in Mordor. And like you think to yourself, he looks like battle hardened, and he's been there and done it, and he really hasn't. Like he probably still holds his mum's hand on like shopping trips and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like probably still goes and gets a lolly with her. So, and it's really like I really have to hold myself back sometimes from too much really like harsh, nasty criticism, because like half of these, what was the average age of the team? It was like 23 and a half years old. Like, what are we doing? Like I got checked a few weeks ago because, again, 45 years old. I'm a 45-year-old man. And for some unbeknown reason, like I was going on like I was still 30 years old. And I had to sort of sit back for a minute and think to myself, hang on. Like some of these guys don't even, a lot of them, but some of these kids probably don't even do their own washing. They probably never had to do their own washing. Do you know what I mean? Like they're on a different planet. They get to roll out of bed when they want. They go and train for a couple of hours. Then they've got, completely, but just, they are kids at the end of the day. And I don't know. And just to move on from just to elaborate on that, just to touch on Gray, because that's obviously who I've got to talk about. I mean, the kid, has done phenomenal this year. I think all things considered, when you break it all down, the amount of kind of partners that he's had to work with, 1 minute, 1 minute is Dragusin, then it's Danzo. He had Kinski behind him. Now he's got Vicario, who I don't think he's played with yet, or I think they may have played a couple of games together. He's got Porro on one side. 1 minute, Doggy's just come back in, who I don't think he's played with very much. He's used to Spence. He's playing with Bergvall in front of him, who's another fantastic young talent. I mean, this kid, if he keeps his head on his shoulders and keeps working hard, and there's no reason to suggest he won't, by all accounts, if you listen to his interviews and things like that. And, he obviously comes from football stock. His family probably aren't going to let him get too ahead of himself. I mean, 2-3 seasons from now, I could just see him being phenomenal in the base of that midfield.
Yeah, he's looking a bargain buy at about 35 million. I know a lot of people have inflated that, but it's about 35 without add-ons. And then you look at Spence, 20 odd million, looking at 50, 60 million pound player like Archie Gray, you know, and you look at you look at Berryvale, not Bergvale, it's Berryvale actually.
Right.
8.5 million. I mean, he's now looking a 40, 50 million pound player. And
you could get 5 times your money already.
We have failed better in the transfer market. We're going to come on to them now because we'll take one each. Alan, pick one.
Wow. I'll take. How would we pronounce it? Berrival?
It's like Berry, like
Berryvale.
Berryvale.
It's a
like a really soft G.
Yeah, very Berryvale.
What a
Fuck it. Let's keep.
He is also a.
Right?
Yeah, he's an amazing talent. He is an amazing talent. He's kind of all over the place on the field. He seems like he's everywhere. He's very physical. I know Manchester United. I was listening to a couple of Manchester United shows, and they wanted him when we picked him up. And I think he's pretty much cemented himself to me as a starter for us. I think to drop him, you lose a lot of physicality. You lose a lot of energy on the pitch that he has, and when he's not there, you can tell when he's not there. It's like Solanke. You can feel it when he's not on the pitch because you miss the work rate. Berryvall would be the same way.
I thought we had his best game in Spurs shot against Ipswich, but I thought to do what he did against Man City when he was like shifting and swiveling away from players and getting forward, always looking to get forward, like Bentancur was when he was on top form, when he wasn't told to play as a more holding midfielder. I don't like the words number 6, but holding midfielder. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he doesn't look. What is he? 19? I think he's 19. He doesn't look 19. He doesn't play like a 19-year-old. He plays like someone with a bit more experience, I think.
Well, him and Gray, they're both 6'2". You know what I mean?
They're both big guys. They're both big guys. They're both big kids. It's weird to have a son almost just about his age. It's weird that to me, he is a kid.
Yeah.
But he plays like someone that has been playing longer than he has in the Premier League. So I enjoy watching him play.
Drew, pick one. Bentancur, Madison.
Oh, let me talk about how frustrated I am with Bentancur again. I don't. What is it that I was going to say? What is it that people see that I don't? That's not true. I'm doing him a complete disservice. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but the yellow card that he picked up, to me, I know there are some people who say, "Oh, he just took one for the team. That's great. That's fantastic." To me, a real midfield general, top class player stays on his feet there and shepherds the ball or shepherds that player into a position. He doesn't just go flying in and goes off his, come off your feet and get yourself booked, because he did that a few games ago and got himself suspended for a game. There's something about him that really winds me up. And I know on his good days, he does help us to tick over. But I think the problem is that I look at him and then I look at how well Berryvale's done coming in. And I think to myself, you're 25, 26 years old? And you don't look as calm and as composed as the 18-year-old next to you. And this is a guy that's won 3 Scudettos. And I guess maybe my
8 yellow cards, so
I got a high expectation of him because of his pedigree. Maybe, I mean, he's not a bad footballer. Clearly he's fantastic, but there is something. I just wish something would click with him, because I think I think he could be a lot better than he is. Just to touch on just Berryvale really quickly, when he came into the league, and the first few games that he played, people were shaking their heads saying, "I don't know about this kid. I don't know about this kid." And one of his coaches in Sweden turned around at the very beginning when he joined us and said he's going to take him about 6 months to get up to speed. And lo and behold, 6 months after those words were uttered, we're sitting here saying this kid is a little bit special and he's something else. And I just want people to hold that kind of mentality when it comes to players like Tell, because as I say, the dude's played 5 or 6 games or 4 or 5 games. Let's like judge him 6 months from now, or when we've just got a bigger palette to test from, I guess is all I'm saying.
When Archie Gray probably had one of his worst performances, it was pre-seasons against Bayern Munich. We played them twice,
right?
But I can't remember if it was the first or second game when Bergvall came on against Bayern. He looked quality against them, and they're a good side, right? And I know it's only pre-season friendlies, and it's not as intense as it is when you're fighting for points in your league. But he shone then, and I think we all knew that Gray would step up quickly because of his grounding in the Championship, whereas like Bergvall's come from other leagues, and we're all thinking, well, yeah, you've looked good in those leagues, are you going to be able to do it? And the last 2 games, I've been very impressed with him. I always knew that he had a good skill set. He's got a long-range pass. He can pass a cross-field ball 20, 25, 30 yards. Right? He's got that. He's always looking to go forward. He only passes back when he's really got no other option. And he will try a risky ball as well, which is what you want from the kid, right?
What is Bentancur's collective yellow card count? Did it reset already?
I've got it. Hang on. I've got it somewhere, actually.
So it's 7, isn't it? I think.
He's getting close. That was my main concern when he got the yellow card. I was thinking, oh, God.
I think Bergvall's got 3 yellow cards, so I don't think he's eligible for Alkmaar away, because you get 3 yellow cards, you're suspended, right? Unless someone can correct me in the chat on that. And I did look at the rule on that as well. So, where are the yellow card stats?
That's in all comps if he has 3?
No, that's just in Europa League.
Okay.
Bentancur's got 7. Basuma's got 5. Madison's got 5. Oh, VDV's got 4. We ain't been playing. Saar 5, Bergel 4, 3. Right, now, for those of you who are listening or watching on playback, right, if you get 10 yellow cards before the 32nd game, you get a 2-match ban, which is a bit ridiculous because there's only 6 games left. So I don't really get that rule. But because in the first part of the league, if you get 5 yellow cards, right, you get a 1-match ban in the first half of the league. So in the first 19 games, you get 5 yellow cards, you get 1-match ban, right? But you've still got them 5 yellow cards against you, and they go up. And you then get 10 before then. You then get 2-match ban, which I still think that's bizarre, because from the 32nd game, there's only like 6 games to go. It could be crucial though, because you might be like, it might affect your team's final position in the league for a European qualification or something. See, Bergvall's got 4 here. He's a league, but he's got 8 already. He's got 8. If you include the League Cup and the FA Cup, he's got 8 cards, right? Which I don't mind. I want bite in midfield. We've always been too soft in midfield. Let's move on to the forward line, which to me has been very clunky all season, whichever forward line we've got. Right, where are we? Here we go. Odegaard, Toll and Johnson. This is to both of you. You'll tackle all 3 at once. Do you think that Odegaard and Toll, because they played together in the French youth levels, is why Ange paired them up for this game?
100% I do. I absolutely agree. I think Odegaard was, if I remember correctly, one of the people who convinced Tell to come to Spurs.
Yeah.
There is that pre-existing relationship, and I guess perhaps I'm guessing part of his contract was that he was going to get a lot of play time, Matthias Tell, and perhaps they're trying to cultivate a duo in Kel and Odebear. I don't know. They probably spend a lot of time together, so they probably figured it's a good an opportunity to pair them up if they're spending so much time. It's kind of like when Richarlison would play with what's his name? Oh, he play on the right side. He's no longer playing for us.
Bergwijn?
No, in defense. Portuguese.
Sanchez, or you talking about?
No. Sanchez is Colombian. Why can I see his? I see his face. But anyway, I do think that Odebear and Tell they're being groomed to be like a pair. I think. I don't know about Johnson as a third. Personally, I think Johnson. We should have started with someone else other than Johnson. We've seen time and again Johnson's against Ipswich. He scored 2 early on, but generally speaking, Johnson was better as an impact sub, in my opinion. He doesn't have the legs for a full 90.
He's an enigma. I've warmed to Johnson, and I can't ignore 14 goals. I just can't ignore it for a wide player. You get 10, that's a good 2. 14 goals. I mean, you can't ignore that. And people say tapping merchant. No, you have got to be able to instinctively know when to get in that penalty area, when to get into that position to be able to get contact with the ball and score that goal. Now, last season he only scored 5. He was blasting over the bar and missing all that. I thought, this kid's got no composure. I didn't want him when I watched videos of him before he came to the club. I've got to be honest, I'll hold my hands up. I have warmed to him. I want to see more. I don't know tactically whether, when the likes of him and Werner have started games and they're wide on the touch lines, whether they're told just to stay there and not come back. Because I get the logical complaints of Spurs fans saying, well, you don't track back. The best track backing game I see him playing was when I think we had Man City in the League Cup at home and beat them. And I don't get it in the player's head. Why don't you see that your players are struggling, come back? I mean, Harry Kane would come back when he sees a struggle, right? So I don't get it, but I don't know. I'm watching this season, which is worse than last season for Ange when he finished 5th. He's had to put up with a lot more injuries. But I still haven't quite got my head around it. No one's really asked that. Why haven't none of the reporters and those that support Spurs like Ali Gold asked that question? Why is it that Johnson or the other winger hang out on the wings, on the touchline all the time? Now, I get it if it's tactically to keep your opponent's defenders occupied and keep them back, but when you're struggling against your opponent's midfield, if they've got it more crowded and they're pushing you back, right? And also at times when we've been winning games and we've lost by the odd goal, because only Liverpool, as Drew's alluded earlier on, the only team that have beaten us by more than 1 goal. Why is it that they haven't come back then? And why is it then, if they've stayed out on the touchline, that we hadn't got the out ball to them? You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? So, they still look. I think Ange is a very experienced manager. He's not a mug. When people say he's clueless, that's just absolute bollocks, in my opinion, right? But and I think you'll find we're going to finish the season strongly because, you're going to see Romero and VDV back, either playing or on the bench Thursday, which we'll come to next, actually. Unless you've got anything to say more about Odegaard, Tell and Johnson. Tell, not played that many minutes for Bayern. His stats as a young player are phenomenal. That's why everyone's looking at him.
Yeah.
But we all know it don't just click straight away. I mean, Mikey Moore, I know he's going to be a superstar, but it doesn't happen overnight in the Premier League. The Premier League's so unforgiving. I mean, you just don't get the time and space you get anywhere else. And I like the look of what I see of Odegaard in the second half. Some of what he did, virtually wanted to take every man on. Tell, nice goal he got against Villa in the FA Cup from the Decky cross. Johnson's banged goals in, but even when we've scored all these goals this season, our front three has always looked disjointed, lack cohesion, looked clunky, and yet somehow, for all the complaints I have about it, we still seem to manage to score goals. Like, you know what I mean? So like,
I mean, I remember when our front three, my favorite front three that I saw was Son on the left, Harry Kane in the middle, and Gareth Bale on the right. You know, so I compare my favorite lineup to this lineup, and I kind of go, man, have we gone backwards?
Yeah, just a bit.
Have we kind of gone backwards? So I don't know.
The problem I've got with this front line, Alan, is that if you're going to play Odegaard, I think if you're going to play Odegaard, you had to play Kulusevski on the right, and if you're going to play Johnson, you had to play Son on the left. I don't think playing both of them was the way to go, just because of the amount of inexperience in that front line. Everyone knows how I feel about Johnson. I think he offers more than people suggest, but I also are fully aware that he is far from the complete player. He can't take on his man like he should, and his final ball leaves a lot to be desired. But there is something to be said for arriving at the right place at the right time. It was good enough for Gary Lineker. It's good enough for Ruud van Nistelrooy. Good enough for Haaland. It's good enough for Ian Wright. There's a lot of players that just happen to just turn up in the right time. And the kid's 23 years old, and if he can perfect turning up at the right time and make a career out of it, and if he finishes this season, let's just say he finishes this season with 20 goals, are we all not going to sit here and go, hang on, he scored what, five goals last year? 5 goals, 7 assists, I think it was. 5 goals, 8 assists, I don't know.
He's got 17 and shared the golden boot with Salah.
Yeah, like he's almost gotten to the point where he's maybe going to double his output, and yet he's had 7 games injury, and yet the kid still can't catch a break. So, I mean, I'm still not at the point where I'm mixing his name with Brazilian icons. We're still not going back there quite yet. But like,
he's not sexy, is he? He's not sexy.
Well, no,
like
that's the thing.
or a Waddle or a Bale or nothing like that. But he's got 14 goals. You can't knock that. But the stick he was taking prior to the League Cup game away at Coventry, which we should have lost, and even Spence got us flying. I mean, the goal he scored for all the abuse he was taking, that was a composed finish to chip over the keeper into the net. And then I see like about 3 of his other goals where like he's calmly scored them from the right in the far corner. They were good finishes, and then when you can make things happen or make a goal for yourself like that, I just think, that looks good. I mean, slightly going off on Solanke, the game when he cut in, beat a couple of defenders and slotted the ball in the corner of the net. I'm thinking, well, you're not a one-dimensional tapping merchant that just holds it in the centre of the field. You've got a bit more to you. I'm hoping I'm going to see more from both and from Johnson. But if he stays out there, keep hugging that touchline, then to me that's tactical. I'll keep my eye on it. In the remaining games, I will keep my eye on it.
Yeah.
Well, let's have a little brief look at this, right? Because we want to cover this Sunday as well. So, preview Alkmaar away. We've got a very good home record, but we've not exactly played to our strengths in Europe this season, squad-wise. We will Thursday. Believe you me, we will go strong. If Romero and Vader are there fit, I think they play.
Did they knock out Galatasaray?
They beat them 4-1. They beat them 4-1, I think. Yeah. Right. So, and Galatasaray, they're like, they play gung-ho suicide football. They think we play it badly. They do. I mean, even when we
they had some crazy injuries though as well. They were pretty depleted by the time it came through. And I say depleted, not in a Tottenham depleted way, not in more in a Arsenal, I've stubbed my toe, depleted. We've got 6 players out, so our season's ending
and we
kind of
lost
way.
3-2 there, and we came back strongly in the second half. And then, that was the game Lancashire got sent off, wasn't it? He scored and got sent off. Sure.
Yes, yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
So they are beatable. They've got a fragile underbelly. They are beatable. I mean, My understanding is Bergvall's got 3 yellow cards. He cannot play in this game, which I'm not too fussed about. Give him a rest. I think we could pick it from these guys. I think, yeah, because it's Vicario Austin, because Kinski's not in the squad, is he? He's not in the European squad.
No.
So I think we say Vicario starts. Now we're down to Spence, Porro, and Davies for the fullbacks. Who are you going for, Alan? Or Drew? It doesn't matter.
Oh man.
I mean, I would love to. I mean, if all of those players are available, my starting 11 would be.
Go for the fullbacks now. Go for the fullbacks.
Oh, just the fullbacks.
We're going to go midfield, then attack, right? So
I would put Spence in. Would you put Spence in?
Vicario in goal. I put Porro and Spence.
Yeah. I mean, for this, Porro and Spence, I mean, I would go Udogie and Spence myself, right? Because Spence, I think that's why Spence didn't play. That's my cynical nature. Even though Ian says he goes strong. What, and Spence in the form he's in? No, I'm not quite having that, right? I would go Udogie and Spence. I think actually for the 2 appearances Udogie's made recently, he's actually looked solid. Nothing sexy, but he's looked okay. He's looked good. Getting back to it. And he's a tank. So I would go Udogie and Spence. So you're going Porro, you said, Drew, yeah?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I'll go Spence on the left and Porro on the right.
I don't think Spence is going on the left now. Udogie's fit, personally. Alan?
Yeah, I think I would go Spence on the right, and I guess Udogie on the left. I think that Porro, with Spence in the form that he's in, and the history that we've seen from Porro, I think Spence could get the nod on the right. I think he just does better. He covers more ground. If you put Brennan Johnson for some reason on the right, he's kind of just there. Spence is able to move upfield. He comes down. He tracks back quickly. I think he's arguably the most improved player of the season.
The one thing about having Spence on the left, although I mean I understand why, Doggy, if he's fit, he probably gets the shout. The thing with Spence on the left is that even though he's right-footed, he's really, really good at overlapping and breaking through the line. And he's also on that side being right-footed in the left-back position. That makes you naturally better at inverting.
Yeah.
And if you're, a right-back with a right foot. So I can totally see that he would probably... Here's the thing, right? And it says a lot. If he starts picking Spence over Porro, I mean, I don't know. It's a big call. You're essentially saying Porro, you're no longer starting right back, in my eyes. And I just don't know. I don't know that we're quite there yet. I don't know if he's ready to pull that trigger. I mean, I'd love to see it. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be Udogie and Spence. I would Udogie and Porro. I would like it to be Spence.
Would it be 2 left field to consider Spence as right back and Porro picking up and attacking right side?
I don't see it. I don't see it.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's not that I think it's a stupid idea. I just don't. He hasn't shown any inclination to do it at all. Even when he's had the option just to throw Porro further upfield, I think his tactics mean that Porro is about as far forward as Porro's going to get anyway. I don't know that pushing Porro out to an attacking right wing or right midfield role, I don't know that it helps Porro, and I don't know that it helps us. I think it's just putting a square peg in a round hole.
It could be a case for selling him.
I mean, it could be a case of just having. He has the. I'm not going to say he's Trent Alexander-Arnold. He has the Trent Alexander-Arnolds about him in that on a good day, Porro can put a ball wherever he wants to. He's like a magnificent passer on his day. I think he's failed to show that recently. I think he's been a little bit off his game, but I think there's something to be said for having two very, very good players for each position. And there are times when I think it calls for a Porro instead of a Spence, maybe. I think it's a nice problem to have. I think I don't know whether it's a case of trusting Porro more.
Is it also a question of like, when you shift, if you're playing football and you've got an IQ and you see Porro going forward, you're seeing Porro going forward. You might be the right-sided midfielder or you might be the right-sided centre-back, right? And if you've got your leader alike in the back four anyway, to me, or in the midfield generals, right? Okay, guys, he's gone forward. We're not forward, we're attacking. Let's all shift. But you can't split your centre-back. So you've got to move across the right as a unit as well. Or those that have got to move across. Your right-sided midfielder, he's gone forward. All right, he's got the ball, he's in space, he's gone forward. I get that. So now I'm going to move in behind him or move across the cover for him. And like, I've only seen that in bits, right? And then I've seen big gaping holes on their left-hand side when that's happened, right? And suddenly if a team get the break on you, okay, they've got the break, right? Now it should be all hands on the deck. Get back now. Because like we've all seen it, you know, on corners and free kicks when our left-hand side on the far post is like they've got a team's got two or three bodies there and we've got no one there, you know, or one man, you know. So yeah.
Well, I think this has been the problem with our season, Adrian, because, you know, if you with the injuries and everything being what it's been, if everybody's been playing every 3 days and all they've really had a chance to do is do some recovery and kind of, you know, essentially walking pace tactics and kind of walkthroughs and setups. And whenever they have been able to do any kind of full-on training, it's been men against boys. So you're not really enhancing your skills in any way. And then you add in the fact that, you know, if you look at, again, I'll harp on about it, the relationships between players, and you look at really, really good teams that are really, really impressive and how they work together and how, like, as a cohesive unit, they move around and they're coached. You know, show me one of those teams, and arguably, I would think that you're probably showing me a team where players have got, you know, 100 games between them. You know, like everyone goes on, and I use Liverpool as an example all the time. Liverpool, they're amazing, they're wonderful. Look how many times Alisson, Virgil van Dijk, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robertson, and Konate have played together as a back five. I mean, it says something when you've played 150 to 200 games together. I mean, just look, I'm looking at the squads that played Manchester City: Vicario, Udogie, Danzo, Gray, and Porro. How many minutes have they actually played together as a defensive unit to be able to know exactly what each of them are doing? Like, people look at teams that are playing almost naturally as a second nature because everybody knows where everybody is, and we're still struggling to be that team, and we're still struggling to, you know, I'm watching Kevin Danzo play on the right side of the centre backs and look for Porro, and Porro's nowhere to be seen because Danzo's not used to his right back being halfway up the field. And it stands to reason that it's going to take him a minute. You know, to his credit, any time that I feel like he's looked awkward because it's not him, an awkward footballer. It's him trying to read the room and trying to go, okay, you go over there. I see where I'm at now. Okay, I've got to step back here because actually you do that. I'm not used to my left back doing that, or I'm not used to my right back doing that. So this is all, you know, it's just all going to take time to gel. It always does.
Well, let's look at the centre back position. I agree with that, right? I think midweek it's going to be Spence because he didn't have a full game today. I think it was held back for that. And I still think it'd be Udogie and Spence. But, like, what do I know? I mean, I might be proved wrong. I might be right, but it's only 2 from 3, so like we can't be far out.
Right.
The situation with the centre backs is a bit different. We have Davies, who had a knock, should be fit. VDV, Romero's back in training, Danso and Gray.
I mean, this is a tough call. I mean, if they are fit, let's say Danzo, Romero, and VDV are fit. What do you do? Being as Danzo's played so well, because I don't think you can drop him right away.
No. To me, you give Romero, he might come on as a sub. To me, I'm going VDV and Danzo every day of the week and twice on Sundays, right? I'm going VDV and Danzo. Alkmaar got a very good home record, but look, let's be fair about this, right? Even when we played them before and we beat them, I mean, like, we weren't anywhere near the sort of strength, or we sort of gathered a bit of momentum now. I'm not, although I'm disappointed we lost against Man City, we're going to finish the season stronger than other teams because we've got players returning to fitness. I think Andrew's wrong.
Fingers crossed. I'm hoping and praying that that's the case.
Barring silly mistakes. I mean, like, even with a fully fit squad, you lose games.
Yeah.
You pick an 11, you still lose. Your players don't impose themselves on the day and you lose a game. And then people go, oh, why didn't you play him? Why didn't you play him? And why was he left out of the match day squad? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my thinking is VDV and Danso.
I would love to see that. I mean, that's pretty powerful, but it's such a quick centre-back pairing. I mean, that's a EAFC player's dream, or Ultimate Team player's dream.
Which means you would actually rest Gray. Now, I'm not saying centre-backs do the less running in the team anyway. So, like, I don't get the tiredness angle with centre-backs. If you're playing high pressure, you've got to run back. I get to worry about hamstring problems or shit like that.
Well, let me ask you, Adrian, on it, like, if you do have the pleasure of VDV, Danzo, and Romero all being fit, and you can play any one of those three, do you think Gray gets dropped, or you actually think, given that Berryvale can't play, do you maybe think about playing Gray and Bentancur?
That's a good call. That's a very good call. Because he can then drop back into it. I said, before we got VDV in, I forget who it was. I said, people are screaming us for it to have a number 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, welcome back, Al. To me, Romero would be a perfect number 6 for us. He's got 5 goals last season. He gets forward. He breaks up play in midfield. Doesn't lose the ball. He's a good passer. He's got it all to be. To me, I think a world-class number 6. Will it happen? No. Why is it unlikely? Well, because like when Rudiger was at Chelsea and everything went through him, everything goes for Romero at the back. And this is what we missed recently. A centre-back that can progress the ball. Looks like Danso's got a bit that he can progress the ball, but the others don't. And don't come up with VDV doing it. VDV will now sense an opportunity and go charging forward, which has led to a couple of goals, right? Which is great. He looks very sexy, but he's not. VDV is not the great. He's not the greatest passer. He's not for his. He needs to improve his heading as well. But I mean, he's still his pace is so crucial to us, right? And he is a good footballer. He is a very good footballer. And I get the way that fans voted it for him. And Romero got second when last season Vicario played every game, and I would give him our man of the season. But fans went different to me. Fair enough. That's your perception. No arguments here. No, I would go VDV and Danso. VDV's fit. Look, he's fit. Romero's just back in training. Al, are you picking out Davies, VDV, Romero, Danso, and Gray?
Again, same thing. I think I would go Spence on the right, Udogie on the left, and VDV and Danzo. I think that VDV and Danzo are a good pairing. Romero and VDV are a good pairing. I don't think that Danzo and Romero would make a good pairing. The two seem almost too physical, not enough pace. Maybe I don't know. I feel like the two of them. There'd be a lot of yellow cards going on. I don't know why. I foresee that happening. Because Kevin Danzo's a fairly physical player, and Romero is very physical. And
I don't know why, but in my head, for some reason, I feel like, and I don't know whether it's just the way he holds himself, Danzo, in the couple of interviews that I've seen. I wonder whether if Romero comes in, whether Danzo almost not plays the secondary role, but is almost like, okay, I'll let you be big boss. And do you know what I mean? I think maybe he'd be intelligent enough to almost be like, I'll let him be the real physical one today, and I'll pick and choose. Like, I don't know. He strikes me as like really kind. He strikes me as really intelligent. He strikes me as really intelligent.
Yeah.
If you watch his movement and the way he breaks and like where he breaks to. I don't know. I don't know why I think that, but something just tells me either that or, maybe even turn around and say, do you know what? Hold my beer. I got this. I don't know.
Yeah, but
if Mbappe's on the field.
Yeah. I can see Romero saying to Dan, so look, you play this. Argentina have got a game coming up shortly. I want to be fit for that, right? So, like, I'll let you.
There is that.
I'll let you sit in for this one.
There is that.
It's me being cynical again. Yeah.
I tell you, a really nice problem to have if you took all of the emotion out of it and everybody was fully fit and we were actually playing like Football Manager or FIFA, like to have Romero, VDV, Danzo, and when he's fit again and hopefully getting better, Dragusin. I mean, that's not a bad centre back four.
So if we did that, which means Gray's left out, so now we can throw him into midfield.
Yeah.
Would Ange risk, mind you, would Ange risk him in the long-awaited number 6 role we wanted to see him play when he bossed the field against Chelsea in a cup game? But is he going to do it in an away game?
I mean, just because it's a number.
You've got Gray, Sarr here, Basuma, Bentancur, exclude Bergvall, I think he's banned, Madison and Kulusevski. Which 3 are you picking, guys? This isn't easy.
I mean, just because he's playing this, I don't know, the 6, using quotes for anyone not looking. Just because he's playing the 6 doesn't mean he could be there on his own. I mean, you could, if you're playing away from home, and you're if we've got real intentions of winning this, then you've got to be real solid away from home. I wouldn't mind seeing like a double pivot.
I'm a big fan of that.
You could do Gray and Bentancur, and then Gray and Bentancur at the base, and you can have. I'd do Gray Bentancur at the base. I'd have Madison up top, and then I know we're going to get onto the forwards, and obviously I'd have Kulu on the right. That would be my midfield 3.
Yeah. Alan, pick your 3.
First, I think Gray has put in the time. In the mafia they say making your bones. I think I think Gray has more than done enough to earn a spot where he actually knows how to play, and which is up in the middle. And so I could see, put experience next to him if you're concerned. Put Madison and Kulusevski in the midfield with him. Something like that. But give him a chance. He deserves it. He's been playing out of position for the most part all season, and he has done a phenomenal job wherever we've needed him. Why not give him a reward and put him where he wants to be?
In my football, I'm a football manager, even though I sit in an armchair and I've never so much as been to a lesson on how to coach. But in my head, I think I have an idea of how to coach or play football. I know, ludicrous as it sounds, but to me, the perfect scenario now, or being as he's had so much experience at centre back, is it not now? Like in my head, I'm thinking to myself, okay, so now he knows. He's obviously accomplished. He can do a job there. So is the perfect scenario now him as a 6 at the base of a midfield with 2 centre-backs who like to carry the ball and progress. So when one of them goes, his natural inclination would be to maybe drop back into a centre-back position, which he now knows how to play and is comfortable doing. And not only that, also in some tactics, could you not have him at the base and then if you've got your two left back and right back, or your backs marauding forward, could you then not drop him into the middle of the two and make a back three? And now you've got three centre back. Like, in my head, this is how football works. And I'm like, why aren't we, like, that sounds like perfection to me. Like, we've unlocked something there, and that could be.
To add to that, actually, Drew, in Italy, before we got Romero, he played in the centre of a back three, and he would step into midfield. That's why I've always said he could be a number 6. He could do the number 6 role if he had two centre backs behind him. He could always drop back and play the centre back role. He could do that role, and not even be a deep line number 6, because he could get forward. Now, depends what your perception is of a modern day number 6. They expect him to be a player that can pick the ball up, not only be a 6, break up play, progress play, play out wide right and left, and get forward, hover around the opponent's penalty area, lay balls off of players to score, right? It's a big ask. It's a big ask, but that's what's expected of a modern day number 6. I mean, to me, I go cams, holding midfield players, attacking midfield players, central midfield players. I'm not getting involved in 6, 8, and 10s. I mean, like 10s, right? Are you a 10? Are you a Ericsson? Are you a Dele Alli when he used to play close to Harry Kane before they moved him out to the left? You know, are you a Bobby Firmino who sits back and sprays balls out left and right to Salah and is it Sane or Mane? I forget who, right? Or whatever. Your perceptions of a number 10 are different, you know? Or you're a Maddison. Totally different. Yeah. They're all different. Don't give them numbers because it's too specific in your argument. And people are screaming, oh, he's not a 6, he's not an 8, he's not a 10. Here, I'm looking at, I always try to get an insight on a manager. When I look at the 11 he picks, sort of regular, and the 9 are on the bench and the subs that they use, you sort of get an inkling like who he trusts, you know. And then if you're looking at freshness, who didn't really play? As much as I'm not a fan of Basuma, right? He didn't play the full game, you know.
Yeah.
Then you're also looking at.
I think there's every chance it's Basuma, Bentancur, Maddison.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, I'd like it to be. I'd like it to be Archie Gray, but I think it's going to be.
I'm looking at Sarr because he came.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Basuma because he didn't come on, did he?
And Kulu. No, Basuma didn't.
And I'm looking at Kulusevski.
Yeah.
Only because they weren't fully used. And Sarr and Basuma are actually a bit more defensive for a way that Alkmaar have done well at home. They've got Troy Parrott as well, Eric Striker. He's got 17 goals, 12 league goals, I think, and 5. And Maddison, that wouldn't surprise me, Sarr, Basuma and Kulusevski.
Mm-hmm.
Up front, Son only came on a sub. He's playing. Now, Odobert shone. He had a lot of minutes. I'm playing Odobert as well.
Over on the right?
Yeah. In the middle, or unless Son plays in the middle and you've got Odobert and Johnson.
You can play Kel on the right and Odobert on the left and Son in the middle.
Yeah, Tel's going to play left or right in the future if we buy him, which is like complicates our transfer window in the summer because we haven't played the full money for Denso or him. If he clicks with his mate and he clicks and he shows it, I mean, his stats as a young player are phenomenal for Tel, right? But that means nothing if you can't do it at a higher level. Plenty of players have failed there.
Right.
Yeah, I see some.
Barring a crisis, I don't see some playing down the middle again. I just don't think he's good enough, and I think he's proven that he's better out on the left, especially with some rest. I just do not see him playing down the centre again.
I miss Scarlett out of this list of Euro players.
Probably
listed 23. Maybe Davis. I don't know if Davis is. I would like to see Scarlett in the middle. I watched them as a 17, 20 now. He always
hang on. No, you haven't missed him out because they were only allowed to make 3 changes, weren't they? This is different to Premier League. It was 3 changes.
Hold on, and he might be academy trained because he's been at a club at 17. He's 20 now.
Yeah.
So it might be on the B list. And with the B list,
there you go. Yeah.
those of you listening, right, you don't have to announce your B list until 24 hours before the game.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And it's not a strict list. It's not a strict list. It can be, I think you've got to be with the academy for 2 years to be on the B list. Whereas sounds like absolute bollocks, but to have 25 in the squad until 23, 4 of them academy players have to have been with the academy for 3 years, right? This should be more simplified. Come on,
A little bit.
Then
All right, well, yeah, I mean, but yeah, in an ideal world, I mean, to be honest, I think I'd have Son, Solanke, and Kulusevski. Well, I mean, we got to try and win this thing, right? So I think we'd be solid. We go there, try and get a couple goals. So I'm going strongest lineup. Who we got Bournemouth on the Sunday, following Sunday. Yeah. I say I go Son if Solanke's fit. Son, Solanke, Johnson. And then look to try and switch him out, and maybe probably give Johnson 90 minutes and switch out Tell for Solanke after 65, 70 minutes. Odebear on for Son. I just really think you go there with the intention of just putting it on him a little bit. We haven't stamped our authority on a team for a minute.
I mean, because Andrew said in his press conference with him and that he went like 7 to 10 days. But Andrew's been very coy. He hasn't revealed information when those correspondents haven't asked him the question. No one's asked him about Solanke. Or I think he did it. We went 7 to 10 days, but he's been pretty coy about it. I think if he's fit, you play him for the fulcrum. He is the fulcrum in the middle. You play him anyway because he's that energetic and that pressing that he'll be fine. Son, Solanke, Kulusevski. Yeah. I think in midfield it'll be Sarr, Basuma, Kulusevski. I think Maddison will be on the bench. And the reason I say Sarr, Basuma and Kulusevski is because we're away from home. Yeah. And you can bring Maddison when legs are tired. And don't get me wrong, I'm not Basuma's biggest fan. I'll be honest about this, right?
What?
I think Sarr and Basuma, they give you that bit of solidity there. And Kulusevski gives you that battering ram. And I think those 3 would be good enough to get us the result.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of of the similar mind. On that, what do you think the result's going to be?
I would look away in Europe. I'll take the draw every day of the week and twice on Sundays. But I think we can go there and get the win. Front 3 though. I mean,
I think Son on the left, Solanke on the in the middle, assuming he's fit, and maybe Tell on the right, and then sub Johnson in because again, I see Johnson as an impact sub. I think Tell is a winger, and once we see him on the wing, he's very fast. He played with Harry Kane. He knows. He had a role model to watch, score goals and stuff like that. I think he can play on the wing really well.
Yeah,
he just hasn't been given that opportunity. Really, he's been playing in the middle, which is not his.
Son and Solanke if they start. Tell could start. I think. Odebert's he's just given his try at home games, which is good. Don't see him starting. Don't see him get. I'm sort of then stuck with Tell or Johnson, and I would like to see Tell playing a bit wider. And I think he gives you a bit more aggression than Johnson does. So I would go Son, Solanke, Tell.
Yeah. But Tell is more aggressive. Johnson's very timid.
Drew, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go Son and Solanke, I think you can afford to do Tell. If you're going to go Johnson, Solanke, you can afford to do Odebear on the other side. But I would really like to see our strongest. As I say, I'd like us to go out there and get a convincing result. If fit, I'd like to see Son, Solanke, Kulusevski.
Yeah, that's why I see Simon Basuma starting. That is like, we're going away. We're not losing this game. We're even getting a point or we're winning it, basically.
I'm going for a 2-2, I think.
Yeah.
I think it'll be 2-1. I think it'll be 2-1 us.
Yeah.
If we could get a 2-1 lead going in, right, at their house, then we go home, right? We're not starting at home. We're starting away, aren't we?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Next leg's at home.
Yeah, it'd be great if we could get a win away. We just set us up.
I'm right in saying that away goals don't count anymore, do they?
No, they don't.
No.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, any sort of result would be good. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm so confident we're going to blow them away at home. I'd even take. I mean, I don't like it, but even if we come away with if it's a good performance and we end up going down 1-0, I won't be too fussed. I just don't see it happening. I think we'll get something.
We're going through. I just don't see any other scenario we're going through. Other fans, we know what the draw is, what's going to go through. We end up winning.
Last time we faced Dutch opponents away in Holland, it was a magical night. So
I remember that night.
Hoping for the same again.
Well, you're going about when Hoddle mastered like Cruyff or later?
No, I'm just talking about Lucas Moura.
Ajax away 3-2. Yeah. Moura.
Yeah. All right, boys. Well, I think we might just have to wrap this out. I've got to head off here in a second.
We will wrap this up, guys. It's been a good show. For you latecomers, we've got 25 of you watching us now, which is why we go out late.
Really appreciate it.
You viewers, if you can remember that we go out Fridays at 10 o'clock for you, which is late for us in the UK, right? But not for, obviously, like Drew or Alan here, your American friends. And we do it because we're let's be fair, we're trying to attract USA, Canadian, and even like Aussie audience and Southern Hemisphere audience as well.
Yeah. So don't want people to feel left out, do we?
Exactly. So our other shows go out Sunday, which is going to go out at 9 o'clock now, UK time, an hour before this show. And on Tuesdays, when we have things to talk about, we'll see about the Sunday and Tuesday show this week because we haven't got a game for 8 days. And I've got to go away and think about it. And as is Drew and Ian, Meth, and Tom, our other admins, we'll have to see if we've got enough to talk about to make a show worthwhile. So hopefully Spurs will have another PR blunder that we can have
Be another more takeover talk, everybody. Let's talk about finance.
If you like our show, please give the shows a thumbs up, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. And I want to thank all you that take the time to even bother to watch us on playback as well. Big up to you guys. And a big up to you guys in the chat, right? For putting your questions in and things like that, right? And we welcome your support, and we'll play you out with, if I can find it.
Have a good one, everyone. See you over the weekend.
Yes, have a good one. Come on, you Spurs.
And I want to thank Mappin earlier and my guest, fellow co-host Alan, regular supporters of the show, good friends of the show. And I'll play you out with this.